Hey hunters! Welcome back to Anime Fanfic Corner, the only place on YouTube dedicated exclusively to Hunter x Hunter audiobooks. Today we've got another awesome Hunter x Hunter fanfic for you, HxH Voided Ambtion. Saturday and Sunday, so you get this extra mini fanfic as a bonus. Just 32 chapters, but the chapters are long and it's a hidden gem. As always, huge shout out to the author, their info's in the description, so make sure to check them out and show some love for crafting this amazing story. If you're new here and love HxH as much as I do, consider dropping a like, subscribing, and officially becoming a hunter. To keep your immersion smooth, I only include intros and outros at the start and end of playlists, so you can enjoy the story with no interruptions. Also, keep an eye on the community posts. I'll be running polls and asking questions, and your input really helps shape what we do next on the channel. Alright, let's dive into it. Peace. Chapter 1. It was a normal day, the birds were chirping and there was as always in the early morning a traffic jam, which annoyed Raul as every day, but he has become accustomed to it over the years. Since Raul lived in a very remote part of the city, and the politicians had never fulfilled their goals to better connect the town, he had to cross the traffic jam-filled bridge to get to the filthy bus stop, which smelled heavily of cigarettes and garbage. When he got on the bus he couldn't help but get even more annoyed, a teenager. It was always the same guy who got on the bus at the same time as Raul at the same place and always heard loud music through his music box. Doesn't this guy have money for headphones? Raul and the other passengers thought in annoyance. What kind of music is that anyway? Music that CIA agents use to torture ISIS members? But fortunately he only had to endure a few minutes, because he had reached his station. Raul finally reached the city center, where he immediately wished to be back home. The city was surrounded by hectic people who didn't even have time to clean their faces or put on makeup. But that didn't stop him from earning money and stuffing his mouth. He had to go to the bank. In the streets, as usual, he saw a lot of hobos, and even gave one $1, which greatly strengthened Raul's sense of self-worth and made him temporarily happy. After this whole thing, he stood in front of a tall skyscraper. He entered the bank and went to the bathroom, where he opened the bag he had been dragging behind him the whole time. He took out all his tools, changed his clothes and put on a helmet. He then stepped out of the restroom and greeted the receptionist before walking out of the bank. Oh damn, she is so hot, no wonder she is the first person you see when you enter the bank. Oh man, if only I can somehow get to know her, he thought, which kind of ruined his mood, knowing he'll never know her. In front of the bank he climbed in his hate box, at least that's what he calls it, which brought him higher and higher, but before all of it, he attached himself with a rope, because safety above all. He sprayed with a sprayer on a window, and then again wiped everything away. Yes, that's right. Raul is a window cleaner. He doesn't earn much from this job, but he doesn't earn very little either. But it gives him a feeling of loneliness every time he is locked up alone in the box for 4 hours at a time. Jump. Raul looked left and right of himself, but couldn't locate where the soft voice came from. Who was that? He thought, but after a few seconds he focused back on his work. Must have misheard it, he thought, and switched to the next window. After an hour he heard the same female voice again with the same word, but this time much louder, which really scared him and made him throw his window squeegee unintentionally high in the air. Shit, he shouted, trying to grab his squeegee before it landed on some passerby's head, and luckily he caught it. Who are you? Raul shouted with his arms and legs outstretched, staring upwards. He bit his jaw hard and said, "Why don't you jump, you fucking..." He heard a knock. It was an old lady in the building. When Raul looked there he could see that the people in the room must have had a meeting and were all staring at him seriously now. Shit, this always happens to me, he thought, spraying the windows again, while a feeling of shame and emptiness filled him. But after a few windows something strange happened. Raul fainted. There was no one in the building to witness the event. And shortly after he fainted, it seems that some dubious aura took over Raul's body. He stood up like a zombie and tried to bite off the rope that was tied to him. And then Raul's body jumped out of nowhere, as the voice commanded. Raul's body seemed to glide deep in a dark sea where the water was devoid of any mass. In the vastness of the void, he slowly began to regain consciousness. His whole body felt heavenly as the strange substance touched his skin, and it was probably the most comfortable he will ever be in his life. Probably this comfort was also the reason why Raul never had the idea to open his eyes. For an indefinite time he glided through the endless body of water. It was impossible to tell whether seconds, years, or even millennia had passed, but apparently time does not exist here, which contradicts all logic, but even this had an end for Raul. Here, called a celestial female voice. Raul's body glided closer and closer to the woman whose body resembled a goddess, who by all appearances was looking for Raul and attracting him to her. When Raul was finally in front of her, she said, "Your second chance is voided," and Raul's body continued to glide beside her. Raul kept moving away and couldn't look her in the face, let alone stand up, only his ears were working. But without knowing it, a hole appeared nearby, which tore Raul in and detached him from the void. Re-ru-ru-ru-ru. It were the loud police sirens in the city. People on the street stopped walking to watch the chase, but the homeless complained about the noise. Most of them were sleeping under a bench, wrapped in newspaper, but not only they were awakened, our protagonist, Raul, who was in a garbage can, came back to his senses. Huh? Where am I? He wondered aloud, but the stench answered it for him, and Raul quickly jumped out of the disgusting garbage can, while a black banana peel stuck to his foot. He realized that he was in an alley and wanted to get out quickly before any unforeseen things happened, but before he did that, his human dignity was struck that he should at least wipe the garbage off his clothes. But when he did that, something very strange struck him. "Why are my arms so small?" he shouted as loud as his vocal cords would allow, but when he heard himself he was even more confused than he was before. "Shit, what's going on here?" he thought, and ran out of the alley as fast as he could. But unexpectedly a policeman was standing in front of the alley. When they saw each other, the policeman came closer and closer, kneeling in front of Raul. "Does this really mean that I am a child?" Raul asked himself, when he saw the obvious size difference between himself and the policeman. The cop grabbed his shoulder and asked Raul, "Hey kid, what are you doing in the alley? Were you the one yelling?" The sounds coming out of the policeman's mouth could not be classified by Raul's brain. The language sounded as if it was not from this world, no resemblance to Indo-European, Asian or any other language group he knew. When the policeman saw the confused Raul, he held his hand and got into a police car with him. The policeman opened the back door and tied Raul to it with the seatbelt. Because Raul couldn't move, he was still a bit scared about the whole thing. As they drove off, Raul stared through the bars of the car, trying to position himself perfectly so that he could see his own face. "What? I have light blue hair? Impossible. Did my parents dye them?" Later he tried to see the policeman's through the rearview mirror. The policeman had a rather unkempt beard and wore a tired face, his eyes were brown and his eyebrows were very thick. When the policeman finally noticed him staring, he said, "You know, it's rude to stare at other people," in a gentle voice, but when he noticed that Raul didn't show any reaction, he understood that Raul probably didn't understand the language, or was deaf. "I hope you won't make us do a lot of work." Chapter 2. It was night and Raul's eyelids started to feel like bowling balls, but before he could reach the land of dreams, he was shaken awake by HxHEnthusisast. That's how the policeman introduced himself while pointing at himself. Arriving at the police station, HxHEnthusisast took Raul to a room where he had to sit down at a table with HxHEnthusisast and another policeman who looked a bit fatter. The room was a bit small, but in the middle of the back wall hung a blackboard, and there were many pictures hanging on it, which were connected with a red line. "Wow, cool, it's just like in a movie," Raul thought enthusiastically and continued to look around. "I found a kid here in an alley. Look at the missing person report, and just by the way, the little one can't understand us," HxHEnthusisast said, while his mate looked at Raul a bit with suspicion. "I'd love to, but for that I'd need the name, birthday and so on," the other cop argued. "Hey little one, what's your name?" Hx asked, but he only got a puzzled face from Raul. "Well, try the body feature filter, our little guy luckily has light blue hair," Hx said happily, while pointing with his thumb at Raul. "First we have to find out if the hair is dyed." The conversation continued, but like in a tennis game, Raul could do nothing but look back and forth, which bored him to death. Hx noticed this and tried to steal a donut from Lux, as the other policeman introduced himself, which he then gave to Raul as a snack. An hour passed and Lux gave Hx a sheet. In the end Raul and Hx got back into the police car. "Looks like you're going to the orphanage, well until we find you on the missing persons report," Hx said, while Raul looked at him confused. The whole communication thing frustrated Hx quite a bit, which is why he wanted to find out Raul's name. To do this, he pointed at himself and said very loudly and clearly to Raul, "HxEs, Hx." After that he pointed at Raul. Raul immediately realized what Hx wanted to ask him and didn't know how to answer, so he got into a dilemma. "So my name is? Should I introduce myself as Raul or invent a new name? I mean, Raul. I've always hated that name. Hx and Lux sound so cool. I got it." When Hx wanted to repeat the method, thinking it had gone wrong, Raul shouted his new pseudo-name. "Rex," he shouted very powerfully. "Ah," yelled the policeman as he clamped his ears, "oh man, you don't have to be so loud when you've never uttered a single word before. Tomorrow I'll inform Lux about this guy's name." Arriving at a clinic, the two went to visit a doctor, who performed a pair of physical tests on Rex, one of which was the famous Hammer-on-a-knee test, after which they plucked a few hairs out of him, and at the end of the day the policeman drove with Rex back to his house, which was located on the outskirts of the city. Once inside the house, Hx led Raul to an unoccupied room, where he closed the windows and then the door. But before he did that he pointed at the bed, symbolizing with his head and hands that Rex should sleep. Rex looked around again and found out that the previous owner was a big rock star fan, but there was something strange about the name of the band. The letters looked so strange, but at the same time also familiar. I must have imagined it," Rex thought. He also saw a giant mirror on a closet, and looked at his whole body. "Wow, so I really am a completely different person. Wow," before he finally turned off the light of a cheap-looking light bulb and pulled the blanket over him. And it didn't take long before he was asleep, but there was one more little thing that did a lot of damage to his heart. A single thought that made him feel infinite remorse to Hx. "I should have taken a shower." When Rex got up, Hx drove him to an orphanage. The orphanage had the style of the Renaissance period, which looked a bit too old and dusty for Rex. He already knew that he could not live with the Hx forever, but he also knew that all good things must come to an end. Once there, Rex was greeted directly by the director, who was blonde and looked very young. In a nutshell, Hx brought him to the orphanage for an undefined period of time. Hx also gave the director some important tasks, such as learning the language and so on. In the middle of the conversation, an employee came in via the door, and if you looked closely, you could see that many children's heads were trying to get a glimpse of the newcomer. The director gave the employee an order, and shortly after the employee separated Rex with Hx. Arriving in a playroom, he couldn't help but play with blocks and Lego, as the TV had a bit too few pixels, which burned into Rex's 4K accustomed eye. Meanwhile, a couple of children watched him curiously and sometimes asked him a few questions, but Rex couldn't help shrugging at each question. Later he looked out the window and saw Hx walking further and further away, which made Rex a little sad. "Oh. Now I'm all alone, with no one at all," he thought to himself, getting ready for his life at the orphanage. As the boredom filled Rex again, he took a book from a small white shelf. He didn't mind that he couldn't read, as long as he looked at the pictures. "Wait, what?" he asked himself. "Isn't this the sign of the Hunter Association in Hunter x Hunter?" He frantically flipped the pages, saw the hunter headquarters and many more things with hunters. Why? Why does an orphanage have this? He thought to himself with a shocked face. Unwittingly, he looked up at the ceiling, where a huge world map was hanging. The world map bore the same old brownish paper as pirate treasure maps, but something was wrong. All the continents are mixed up and disoriented. That looks exactly like what I saw in Hunter x Hunter. Does that mean I'm in the Hunter x Hunter world? It became clearer and clearer to him. Suddenly the letters became obvious to him as well, the exact same ones that appeared in Hunter x Hunter. Now there was nothing that would make him change his mind now. He thought directly about Nen and tried to find the power in him, which is why he now sat cross-legged on the floor and meditated, but to all the evidence, it was still missing in him. An orange-haired kid, who had been eyeing him like a tiger all along, now looked at him in confusion and was greeted by a disappointed face from Rex. What's wrong with this guy, he thought to himself, and continued to roll his plastic cars along the ground. Rex didn't awaken his Nen, and felt like a fool. Anyway, in the anime you had to meditate for years to awaken Nen. I hope I'm right in my assumption about this world. At the moment, Rex is enjoying dinner with many other children, taking a slice of bread and then spreading butter and honey on it. Not too much honey, Rex. It's bad, said a caregiver who had tried to make his sentences as simple as possible for Rex for him to understand. Okay, gave Rex out of his mouth, while trying to master the language. In the first 6 months I got familiar with every kid in the orphanage, and learned their names, he thought. The kid with the orange hair was named Neo. At first he was a bit closed and kept away from me, but somehow we're best buddies now. Close to dinner, Rex walked up to a caregiver and said, "Gotta go to the bathroom." The caregiver gave a nod and Rex ran as fast as he could to the restroom. Rex locked the door and put the toilet lid on the toilet. Then he sat cross-legged on the toilet lid and meditated. While meditating, he felt the same power that he had felt in the previous days, but he also felt that it was getting stronger and stronger. Fortunately I was right in my assumption. This Nen is getting stronger in presence every day more and more aura pores are opening, but controlling them now seems to be impossible. After many minutes Rex got down from the toilet and went out. In the corridor leading to the dormitories he saw Neo again, who then asked him a question. "It's been almost an hour, I don't know what you're up to, but go see a doctor or something." "It's alright," Rex replied as he laid back on his bed. "Good night." "Hey, shut up you motherfuckers. Some people are trying to sleep here," said an older kid in an aggressive voice. "Yeah, it's okay, take it easy man," replied Neo, when he finally laid on the bed as well. "Good night to you too." And with this last sentence, the whole orphanage became silent. With the exception of Rex, who woke up after 4 hours of sleep, and was meditating on the bed. Chapter 3. An aura wrapped around a young boy, who was just about 12 years old, but in reality he has not even hit 8 years. Yes, that's right, it was Rex, who seems to have almost become a superhuman in the eyes of the children of the orphanage. "Phew," Rex uttered, standing in the middle of the night in the garden area of the orphanage. His whole body was drenched in sweat, which would have puzzled a normal person, since Rex did nothing but stand, but in the view of an unuser, one could see that he was training his Ren stamina. Meanwhile, another 3 years have passed, and only 6 months ago Rex unlocked his Nen. The first thing he did was to train his Ren. Why Ren of all things? Because next to Hatsu, Ren is the most important part of Nen. With the Ren training, which he did for a few hours every day, he was able to increase his Nen capacity for a great deal, but this is not all. Since Rex concentrated intensive Ren on his body every day, it strengthened his muscles and body many times over. Lying down he looked at the stars, not many since most of them were obscured because of the air pollution, still enough to improve his mood a little, but it couldn't keep him happy. Fuck. Why were Gon and Killua able to use Go after 1 day? Yes, it was really like that. His hatred towards them grew bigger and bigger day by day. He got up again and tried to concentrate a lot of Nen in his eyes, but it wasn't quite that easy. I've been training Ren to get more Nen, so why hasn't my control changed? It was said that with more, you can control better. So why not now? Rex came back to his senses and sat down on the floor. 1 in 10 million. That was their talents, right? I guess that means I'm a 1 in 1, right? Only after 3 years of meditating my Nen awakened, and now I'm still struggling with the 4 major principles of the Shingen-Ryu school. I already knew that I'm not the most talented, but after 3 months of intensive Nen training, you should be able to hold Gyo for 15 seconds. Who am I kidding? I can kind of already use Ren, Ten, and Zetsu to a good degree. Maybe I shouldn't concentrate too much on the advanced methods. How about Hatsu now? Throughout the Nen training, Rex has continuously refused to think about creating Hatsu. Oh man, if I know about my Nen type. It's not bad, is it? He thought, still trying to postpone this a bit as well. He did it for the simple reason of wanting his Hatsu ability to be as effective as possible. If he had created his Hatsu 6 months ago, his low Nen capacity would have prevented him from developing most of the strong abilities he could get. He activated Zetsu and sneaked back into the orphanage. Through a couple of corridors and rooms he finally caught the kitchen, where he held a water glass from the shelf under the sink and then the glass slowly filled with water. After that he went outside again, so he didn't have to hold his emotions so tightly. He sat cross-legged under the same tree again and covered the glass on the sides with his hands. After a few seconds, nothing happened, which made Rex believe that he was a transmutant, his favorite type and the kind of type that gave him the most Hatsu ideas, but all his joy was lost after he saw that there were impurities forming on the water surface. Ah, that means that I am a conjurer. Damn, I'm so tired. The cross-legged seat loosened and Rex fell to the ground and into a deep sleep. Hey, wake up, Neo yelled, kicking at Rex's body. Rex woke up and scrubbed the dirt from his eyes. Hey Neo, what are you doing here? The whole orphanage was worried about you. What are you doing here? Hey, is that beer? Don't tell em. I didn't drink beer, shouted Rex, who interrupted Neo. Yeah, echoed Neo. Click, who was taking a picture with an old-looking phone. Finally I have a photo to blackmail you. Why do you have a phone? They're too expensive, aren't they? Asked Rex. I didn't buy it, you idiot, I stole it. Wait, what? Rex. We've been looking for you all over the orphanage, where have you been? When Rex saw the caretaker running to him, he quickly emptied the glass behind the tree. The counselor grabbed Rex by the hand and took him to the director. Rex. Top grades in all academic areas, and always #1 in sports and athletic events. The director began to remark. I know that for a smart kid like you, the orphanage is pretty limited, but you don't have to feel cramped anymore. We finally found a foster family after years. The director looked at Rex again and noticed that Rex's eyes hadn't changed, which prompted him to say, Aren't you happy to finally leave the orphanage? I'm not accepting the adoption, Rex said in an annoyed voice. You are 7.5 years old, Rex. With that age you don't have the right to deny your adoption, said the director. But I trust you Rex, and your decision-making closure, so get out of the office already, we have nothing to discuss. Yes director, said Rex, quickly leaving the room. 2 more years have passed, in which Rex has tried to enrich the advanced techniques to him. Due to his Ren, the techniques of Ken, Ko, En and Gyo were rather easy for him. But Ryu and In were still very hard for him. But this night is special. It is the night in which he will see Neo for the last time. That's why he wants to give him something special. Rex used Zetsu and carried Neo's sleeping body to the lawn. Hey, wake up you lazy bastard, Rex said loudly as he poured a bucket of cold water on Neo's body. Ah! Cold, 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 Neo shouted loudly as he stood up, shivering very quick and trying to make himself as small as possible. Rex, you fucking whore. But before he could finish his sentence, Rex's hand covered Neo's mouth. Do you want the whole orphanage to wake up? Neo pushed Rex's hand away from his mouth and said, Then tell me why you woke me up in the middle of the night, you dick. I'm going to teach you Nen, Rex said in a calm voice. Nen? What are you talking about, man? Did you fall on your head or what? Take your clothes off, Rex replied. Dude. Cut the crap, I don't have time for this bullshit right now. Rex walked over to Neo and ripped off his t-shirt. To be honest, I want to escape the orphanage today, but I can't just leave you here in the cold like this. Neo looked into Rex's eyes in confusion and couldn't find any sign that Rex was lying. Are you serious? What if the police catches you? No. Where are you going anyway? What if some criminal catches you? Calm down, Neo. I'm strong enough, Rex said as he pressed his hand flat on the tree, where after seconds the tree trunk looked more and more slanted to the other side. There. You see. What was that? Did you awaken some superpowers or what? Neo asked the Rex. That's the Nen I was telling you about. After this conversation they talked a bit more, but in the end Neo stood with his back and only his shorts on in front of Rex. Rex placed his hands on Neo's back and slowly focused the finest kind of aura that comes to his mind, that couldn't even fly, on Neo's back. Then a white gas or fluid kind of substance emitted out of Neo's body. I explained it to you before, I opened your aura pores in your body, this aura will feel something like mine, try to control it. Alright boss, said Neo, who was letting more and more aura escape from his body with each passing second. But this came to an end as his face formed a happy smile. What a monster. I knew Neo was probably the most talented person I've met in my 5.5 years of living here. Well, he always responded to my Nen the fastest. Yes, Rex created a kind of system to measure one's talent in Nen. In it, you just have to hide within and go to a person and emit Nen to them. In the beginning you try to emit as little Nen as possible, but as time goes by you emit more and more Nen. This test is also a great idea to train your in. Well, what if you already reacted to a very small amount of Nen? You could pass as a talent of 1 in 10'000, but what if you already reacted to the in? You would be at Gun and Killua's level. Well, Neo still couldn't detect Rex, but could sense that something wasn't right with the environment. You're wondering what to do with this power, said Rex, taking a piece of folded paper from his pants pocket. He handed it to Neo and said, here's a note on each form of Nen with a little illustration I drew, and what you're supposed to do afterwards, like get through the hunter test. You know, just to say, but each and every hunter possesses Nen. Nen. So this you power of the hunters, how do you know? No, that's not important, Neo said, but shortly after that, he opened the paper and quickly went through everything. These illustrations look completely. Completely what? Rex asked him. Neo looked at Rex for a couple of seconds, not very sure if he should tell him the truth. Well, the drawings aren't exactly world-class. Rex was expecting these kind of comments in these dire situations from Neo and gave him the code to solve the note. After that, the two then stood in front of the orphanage's gate and looked at each other. Don't forget to hide the 2 papers well and then burn them. I hope we will meet again, preferably as hunters. And with this sentence began the adventure of the upcoming legendary hunter, Rex. Chapter 4. A wind blew and caused a gentle rustling in a certain island. The animals were adjusted, some carried dangerous claws, others armed themselves with a tough impregnable armor, yet others were coated with a deadly poison, but most had none of those. What then? What should you do if you want to survive? You have to be clever and always find the best solution, because if you don't, you will die. But even their skill could never keep up with an apex predator that can break your neck with just one fast bite all of the sudden. These animals can't help but let nature take its course and be hunted as prey. But man? He has already parted himself from nature for a long time ago. He does not need to bow to the laws of nature. After all, man was the only creature that found out how to go from being hunted to being a hunter. Through Nen. Well, the island that was just briefly described is the one Rex was currently on. It is part of an archipelago south of the Republic of Mimbo and is called Devil. The name came from the first discoverer of the island. Rumor has it that the straw-hatted captain and his crew were trying to track down a treasure, but accidentally discovered a new island. The crew immediately set an anchor and took part in the task of discovering and exploring the new land. But when one of them tried to open his luggage, exposing his back to the woods, a tiger came out of the bushes and snatched the man by the back of his neck. When the others saw that, they wanted to leave everything and flee. When another tried to run, he could not help but fall over, because his legs were infected with a poisonous parasitic fungus, which affected his legs with purple mushroom heads, with a slight blue tint. One by one, the members of the crew died a very painful death. The captain, however, still managed to swim to the ship, and due to the fact that he was about 10 times stronger than a normal human, and that decades worth of adrenaline pumped through him, he was able to destroy the metal chain of the anchor with his bare hands, and with a bit of luck and the wind, he was able to leave the island as quickly as possible. The captain felt a wave of sadness hitting him, but what could he do? Even if he had waited a little longer, no one would have made it back to the ship, and if he had fought on the island, everyone would have died. But he still couldn't get rid of the sadness, so he looked at the personal belongings of the members, and one day he came across a mirror, but when he saw his face, he went completely insane. Half of his face was melted. When he arrived in a port after a long journey, he jumped out of the ship and ran into the middle of the main street. Every man, woman, child looked at him. By now almost his whole face had melted. He was deprived of all 5 senses, and the only things that still worked were his legs, arms and vocal cords. As the whole city now focused on him and rounded, he pointed with his right arm to the direction of the island and said, "Devil." After that he fell down. Those were his last words. Well, fortunately Rex doesn't have to worry so much about that, because the most poisonous or dangerous species have already been hunted to extinction. The poison of the animals, plants, or the mushrooms could be used for magic elixirs, and the claws of the tigers could be used as precious jewelry to make a lot of money. But even if it is now safer, a normal person would die within a single day. "This is the perfect hiding place," Rex said, who just kicked a stone into a cave. Shortly after that, he went into the cave and got as far as he could until he found a dead end. "I think that's enough for now." After that he stretched out his right hand, all the nen he could get flowed through his arm, until the nen separated from his body and formed into a ball-like form. This ball began to morph more and more, until it slowly but surely took on a human shape. It was completely white and shone a brilliant golden light. Yes, that's right, it was Rex's Hatsu. He then took a knife and cut out the eyes. The eyes shined and tranced into 2 balls, that merged in Rex's eyes. Step 1 of the metamorphosis achieved. "My vision has increased significantly," Rex spoke as he saw an angry look behind him simultaneously. It was a huge bear, who wore silver fur that had been lured by the noise all the way to the back of the cave. "No time for you," Rex said as he ran the bear to death at a speed of above 100 km per hour, 62 miles per hour, and shortly thereafter destroyed the entrance to the cave so no one could get in. "So, now my spare body is complete. Now comes step 2 of the metamorphosis, survive." Rex Hatsu had a total of 3 phases. The first is the creation of the spare body, the second is to participate in endless training and battles and gain as much experience as possible so that the spare body grows, and the third phase is death. If he dies, he awakens back in his spare body. The conditions were: first, that all living beings within the circumference of a kilometer, 0.62 miles, get a little irrational anger towards Rex for 1 year. Rex personally calls this phase the risky phase and sports him to travel daily. This was also the main reason why he left the orphanage and his friends, but was by the impact it made optimal as a condition. The second condition was that Rex can't train or grow his body or nen, but in exchange the spare body can train with a multiplier, so if the multiplier is 3, then the training done for 1 day becomes 3, it's like training 4 hours and getting 12 hours from it. This multiplier doesn't really have a maximum, but it automatically starts at 2, with more limitations it can increase significantly. Currently it's at 4, due to the extra limitation of having a good chunk of nen sealed in the spare body. can also rise with more anger through the first condition. The third condition is that the spare body takes a year to create. If Rex dies while creating it, there is no next attempt and the spare body dissolves. Rex also cannot create a second spare body if the first one still exists. But the spare body trains and gets experience since day one. The fourth condition is that if the spare body is destroyed, all the experience gained is lost and you cannot create a spare body for the next 3 years. The fifth and therefore last condition to complete the metamorphosis is death. One ability that the spare body can use before it is created is to strengthen a part of Rex's original body significantly. Rex has already used this when he took the eyes. But this ability only applies to the part of the body parts that one took. When you resurrect, these body parts are missing and cannot be regenerated with any nen or hatsu in the world, but they come back in the next spare body. Something else that is also quite good are that involuntary limitations, parasitic nenhatsus, or unwilled manipulation, are cancelled upon dying as they are fixed to the body and not to the soul. So, by manifestation, I create a body. Through manipulation I change my muscle fibers, nervous system and other attributes of the body and strengthen them with the enhancement. The multiplier comes from all the conditions that will impede my life, and at the end there is the additional 1% of my specialization, which kind of connects me and the body, so that my soul knows where the spare body is and feeds the spare body with experience and so on. Haha, it isn't the first time my soul has wandered, said Rex as he scratched the back of his head with his hands and gave off a weird smile. Haha. I think that would be enough to protect myself against the instant kill hatsus like Camilla's cat or Aluka. Or to protect myself against parasitic hatsus, plagues, manipulators or diseases. Did I forget something? What else could kill me? It's no use thinking about it anymore, now I have to go to Heaven's arena. These were also the last words he uttered on his voyage to Devil Island, as he quickly made his way back to the Republic of Fedokia. Once in the city, he looked at all the sights he knew from a stolen travel book. Arriving in the market he saw many small stores, many of them were busy bargaining and all of them were wearing colorful and odd clothes, but Rex already got used to that in the orphanage. Oh hey, that looks funny, wait, why does he only have 6 legs? Thought Rex when he saw a crab mask sitting on a box. He then walked up to the Arabic-looking vendor. How much for the crab mask? 1,000 jenny, good price, the vendor replied. No, not good price, Rex said. 1,000 jenny? That's almost $20, is he crazy? Come on, ha ha ha, Rex laughed. Come on, for 1,000 jenny I get a horde of camels along with a concubine. Okay, then make me a good price, the salesman said in a happy voice, while at the same time patting Rex on the shoulder. Rex gathered all his courage and said, 250 jenny, no more, no less. Ooh, you my friend are joking, I have 7 wives and 10 kids to feed, otherwise we starve to death. I heard that store next door is good too, Rex said, pointing with his finder to the mask store just a few stores away. You know, odd boy, I like you, and that's why I'm doing a special price for you, this crab mask for 700 jenny. Well persuaded, let's make it 300. 600. 350. 550. 400. 450. 425, they both said together. Haha, 425. Less than half, a bargain, oh my, the old man didn't expect that, Rex thought, as he took his wallet out of his pocket, opened it and handing the money to the seller. Hee, such a fool, 150 jenny would have done it too, thought the salesman and made a peace sign after giving Rex the crab mask. Bye-bye and thank you my friend. Wow, 991 meters, 3,251 feet, I'm getting tired of this, sad face emoji, and with such a funny shape. What metals they must have used. Rex commented while wearing the crab mask, getting closer and closer to the Heavens arena, but before he went in, he looked back at the city to marvel at it again. 2. Hey you, crab boy. Don't stand outside the automated doors the whole time, "You're letting all the cold air in. I am freezing," said a pretty receptionist, who was obviously pretty pissed off. Comment: Yeah, just chill out, after all. I came here to sign up. Chapter 5. Alright, Rex Chorists, 10 years old, your number is 6174, remember it good, on the first floor, you will be called by this number, you can enter now. As Rex entered a hallway and got closer and closer to the end, he could already hear very loud cheering, but when he looked around again, he could see that not very many seats were taken. Get him finished. That's it. There were several fighting rings, with 2 people fighting in each one. Rex climbed down some stairs and sat at the lowest seats, so he could observe the fight better. And his eye gave off a faint yellow-gold light. Karate, judo, jiu-jitsu, boxing, taekwondo. I didn't know very many of them and I didn't really train anything, except for the little bit of karate that a friend once showed me, but in this life I should make it my goal to master and evolve all the martial arts that I know. When he was again aware of what will await him in the not-so-distant future, a kind of euphoria filled him. He knew that the childhood years are the best times to grow, and he had to use them as efficiently as possible, preferably by learning as many techniques as possible, and for this reason he looked very eagerly at the fighters who participated here in the fight. He watched the whole time very excitedly. His improved eye had not only the ability to see better, but also the ability to remember what he saw better, and to better transmit it with the optic nerve to the brain. But then his eyes caught something very special. It was a child. It was standing in the middle of the arena, but its face showed no excitement or nervousness. And then, out of the blue, the child was able to defeat his opponent, who was 10 times bigger, with a single blow. Wow, don't tell me that's... And then, after an hour of waiting, the announcement finally came from a loudspeaker that Rex had been waiting for all along. The fighters with numbers 6174 and 1243 please proceed to Ring E. He got up, walked to the arena and did a backflip to land on the elevated platform. Once there, he was in the same fight ring as the child before and he saw that his opponent was a huge, fat and well-trained man. But, before the referee gave the start signal, a few from the audience shouted with their arms outstretched and a few slightly drunk. "Hey, he's just a kid. You squirt, run away while you still can. This ain't no game. Come on man, smash this brat out of the ring with a big fist bump." When the audience calmed down again the referees started talking. "Here in the rings on the second floor we judge the skill level of the new fighters, please show what you are capable of within the time limit of 3 minutes. Then start now," shouted the referee, swinging his right arm up at the same time. The man looked at Rex pitifully for a short time, cracked his fingers, took a quick swing with his left arm and said, "I'm really sorry little guy, but you'll feel a lot better after one punch." But against his expectation, his punch landed not in the crab mask, but in the open air. The man looked around in panic, his head turned left, right and even above him. What the hell, where is H? And before he could finish his thoughts, a soft, induced fist from Rex landed in the man's lower jaw, knocking him unconscious in no time. But before he fell, he coughed up a lot of blood from his mouth, as it was typical in many anime. Ew. Man, I'm not allowed to use nen here yet, I don't want to make anyone a non-user, Rex muttered quietly to himself as he swung his fist many times to remove the blood. Fortunately, none of it had hit his clothes. Wow, that kid's got it. Did you see where he was? He disappeared so suddenly. So much power. He's the second kid already. How do parents feed their kids these days? The referee looked at him and took out a device from his pocket. He typed in a pair of numbers and out came a ticket, which the referee gave Rex. Number 6174, you can go up to the 50th floor. After that Rex took the ticket and went to an elevator, where a child and a staff member were waiting for him, and then after he entered, the woman explained everything. The first 200 floors of Heaven's Arena are grouped into classes of 10 floors, which means that if a fighter wins a fight in the 50th floor class, he goes up to the 60th floor, and if he loses, he goes down to the 40th floor. That's how the system works. If you have any questions, you can ask me now. But the two children stared at her blankly. What are kids doing here anyway? Why are they staring at me so strangely? And what about the smaller one's eyes? Why does he have such big black pupils? Yuck. So creepy. We've reached the 50th floor. Both kids left the elevator and walked a few steps together to the next arena. Why did you wait for me? Since the atmosphere was pretty awkward, Rex couldn't help but start the conversation. I just didn't expect to meet another kid here, the child said honestly. I'm Illumi's Oldic, and you? Did your father send you here too? Oh, it's really Illumi. The first person I meet from HxHEnthusisast is a psychopath, Rex thought with a bit of dread and excitement, but he couldn't keep Illumi waiting any longer, so he replied, I'm HxHEnthusisast. But are you really as Oldic? I've heard that they are a brutal and merciless assassin family. Then a thought flashed through his brain. Wait. Will you kill me? Illumi shook his head calmly. You already know a lot about us, but don't worry, you're not on the list. Oh man, he showed zero emotion. What did Silva let him go through? I even played the scared young boy. But at the moment, I wonder if I could make him into a specialist or an emission guy. I mean, he's still just 6. You can give his personality a final polish for that. The two continued talking, and arrived to a much larger arena than the one on the 10th floor. The seats were also much more crowded, so they had no choice but to sit at the bottom of a staircase. So, do you know any assassin tricks? Said Rex, trying to learn anything from Illumi and maybe pick something up. Yeah, why? Are you interested in that? Well, sure. It's not every day you meet an assassin from the infamous Zoldyck family. You can stop saying Zoldyck all the time. Huh, did I hit a nerve? Thought Rex as he touched his right earlobe. Chill out, why do you get so pissed off right away? Could it be that you don't even like the Zoldyck family? Illumi stared at the ground for a couple of seconds thinking about everything possible and in the end he said, I don't understand you, how can you be so sure that I'm from the Zoldyck family? I haven't shown any tricks yet. This confident face you're showing me, could it be that you're a new butler hired by my father? Or are you an assassin yourself? Said Illumi, who outwardly still looked casual and relaxed, but this could not fool Rex. Illumi was ready to kill Rex at any time. Illumi had all his muscles fully tensed, but these were hidden under his long shirt and the big shorts he wore. The situation is very tense, it's probably better if I loosen it a bit, Rex thought as he stretched both arms up, but he himself had now applied 10 around his body. Haha, so you even have butlers, but I have to disappoint you, I'm not a butler or someone sent by your father or someone else, I just thought you were telling the truth, or is it not true? Illumi stared at him a little bit, unsure what to do. But then he decided to relax his muscles a little bit. You are a funny guy. Illumi raised his hand in front of him, and suddenly a lot of veins hidden deep in his hands came out and focused on his fingers, which for some magical reason caused his fingernails to become very long. Wow, that's awesome, Rex said in real excitement and wonder, still protecting himself with 10 in case Illumi got any stupid ideas, but loosening it a bit, as he suddenly felt a lot safer than before. Apparently Rex's childish side pleased Illumi a bit, which he couldn't show with his blank face. Say, can you teach M? Number 6174, Rex chorusts and number 2428, Illumi Zoldyck, please enter the arena. Haha, that must be fate, said Rex happily as he stood up and stretched. Math jump scare. Illumi is at the time of Gon's Hunter exam 24 years old, and the world, canon, of HxHEnthusisast starts at 1999. And if a Zoldyck enters Heaven's arena, he does it at the age of 6, in this FF. So 1999 to 24 equals 1975. And that plus 6 equals 1981. This means that he entered Heaven's arena in 1981. Rex by pure luck also entered the arena on the same day as Illumi. 1999 to 28 equals 1971. 1971 plus 10, Rex age, equals 1981, meaning Rex entered Heaven's arena in the same year. Chapter 6. In a large arena, two children were facing each other. One was quite sure of his victory and therefore wore an unamused face, which brought a very strong contrast to the other child. This fight goes to the KO, somebody surrenders, or somebody falls out of the arena. With that explanation, it will now begin, said the referee, who blew a whistle and took a few steps back, so as not to end up in the fight. Illumi walked very slowly to Rex, which made Rex panic a bit. He simply didn't know what sort of tricks assassins could use, and with the threat from Illumi before the fight started, that if he showed any sign of weakness, he wouldn't be worth living, he took extra precautions. Rex went in a boxing position and used N, which radius is about as big as his own arm. Come to me, in this fight I am far superior to you, with N I can sense and counter any of your attacks, no matter in which direction, and on top of that I have a greater range than you. Since you can't use weapons here, close combat is the only option you have, Illumi. Rex watched Illumi, who was still in front of him, the entire time and waited anxiously until he did something. But his Nen could tell him with the sixth sense that something was not right. Then, he suddenly felt a murderous intent behind him. Illumi's clawed hand flowed through his N. Rex bent over as fast as he could, jumped a big step forward and quickly turned around. You were in front of me, weren't you? How could that be? Wow, viewers. Did you see that? It looks like Illumi can teleport. Or was he just fast and no one caught on? Well, Rex was able to narrowly avoid it. You have quite good reflexes, or is it something else? Well, earlier you asked me to show an assassination technique and since I couldn't demonstrate the last one, I decided to use rhythm echo. I'll give you a hint, clones. Echo rhythm. Oh right. He tricked my brain by walking to me in the same monotonous and slow way, and this must have tricked my brain into thinking it could predict the next steps. And this is how the illusion of an after image, echo re-a, was created. But how did he? I see, Rex thought, when suddenly a light flashed in his eyes. Illumi seemed to have noticed this and the corners of his mouth seemed to rise up a little bit. Yes, while you and everyone else here in the audience were focusing on the after image, I used another assassin technique, shadow steps, to get to the back and run around the arena very quickly and quietly until I was behind you. Why is he explaining all this to me now? Thought Rex as he tried to hit Illumi's small body with his right fist as fast as a flash, but Illumi simply stepped to the left and grabbed Rex's long shirt with both his hands and pulled Rex forward with a snap. This caused Rex to lose his grip and fall forward. But his hands supported him on the ground and he pushed himself up in the air to avoid being caught by Illumi, but before he could land on the ground Illumi ran to him and was ready to punch Rex. But Rex blocked it with his left hand, and grabbed Illumi's elbow with his right hand. If he hadn't done that, he would have been outside the ring by now because of the huge force of the punch. As he landed he tried to land a pair of kicks and punches on Illumi, but Illumi blocked them all, which frustrated Rex slightly, but Illumi couldn't help but feel a bit trapped. Not only could Rex predict all the counters, but somehow use them to his advantage. And since Illumi was hooked by Rex, he couldn't escape and just watch as Rex's kicks and fists were coming closer and closer to him, until they caught him and even harmed him a bit. Then a thought came to his mind. I could use Snake Awakening. But it might kill Rex. From an unexpected turn, Illumi seemingly gave up. Suddenly Illumi was directing all of his murderous lust at Rex. This caused a cold shiver to come under Rex's spine, and he immediately let go and jumped to the edge of the arena. Wow audience! It seems like Rex has retreated after all the punching out and kicking. Was this a sign of kindness? It's alright Rex, Illumi said, turning his back to Rex while nearing the edge of the arena. I hate fighting someone who doesn't even make me give it my all. Does that mean you're giving up? Asked Rex. Pretty much yes, why? A smile formed on Rex's face. Well, I don't want to win a fight where my opponent simply surrenders. I have another trick I want to show you. Oh, and that would be? Rex got into a slightly kneeling position and formed an X with his arms. This is what we call Ren. In an instant, Illumi felt the same strange murderous intent that he had once felt from his father. He immediately jumped out of the arena and hid in the farthest place in the arena. What was that? Illumi could only wonder as the commentator declared the winner of this fight. Wow, what was that? It looks like Illumi has fled from Rex. Ladies and gentlemen, Crab King Rex and Black Pupils Illumi have shown us a lot of their fighting skills and ability in this exciting and thrilling battle. But unfortunately all good things must come to an end. The winner is Rex. Illumi has left the arena. Woohoo! Awesome fight. You usually only experience something like this in the 200th floors. Wow! After Rex continued to enjoy all the cheering, he jumped down from the arena, went upstairs and walked to a receptionist, where Illumi was also waiting for him. Here's the money. The amount is 50,000 Jenny, the receptionist said as she handed Rex an enclosed envelope. You can go to the 60th floor now. Illumi tapped him on the shoulder. Are you going to ignore me right after I waited here for you? Come on, tell me, how did you do that? Rex pondered for a bit before coming to a decision. Meet me on the 100th floor, you have your own room there, it's much better if we discuss it there. All right. Rex and Illumi were currently in the same room on the 100th floor. It had taken Rex 5 victories and Illumi 7, but they managed to do it all in 3 days. Rex sat on the bed, while Illumi stood to the side of the bed, but Rex still had to check something. Tell me Illumi, what are you going to do after your father lets you out of Heaven's arena here? I will probably continue training, Illumi replied quickly and without giving it a second thought. That's not what I mean, Rex said. What are you going to do after you go through all that training and get strong? Illumi stared at Rex for a few seconds. I'm going to accept and carry out assassination orders. What else? Dot. 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 PFT. Rex couldn't help but laugh. You really mean to tell me that you only live so you can serve as a lapdog to people from continents far away? I'm sorry but such unwilling people can't learn then. But that's what I was made for, Illumi said plainly. Made but not qualified for it. I can already see it in your eyes. Those big pupils only pretend what they want to become. Illumi walked towards the door. You don't know what you are talking about, Rex. Yeah, go ahead. Remain a slave to your father, but I warn you. If you keep staying like this, you will forever be unhappy, looking for a meaning or goal in life, but never able to come to terms with it. Say. What is it that you want to achieve in this life? Illumi closed the door and continued walking to his own room. But Rex's words just couldn't get out of his head. No wonder, this is the first time that someone asked him about it. It's also the first time he didn't talk to a member of his family or a butler about in-depth matters. And even in his room, in the deep night in his bed, Illumi tried to ignore the question, but it seems that it awakened something deep inside him. The longer he thought about it, the more he felt something new rising inside of him, and he himself felt vast amounts of emotions and feelings that sometimes struck him, but never so strongly that he couldn't sleep. Suddenly there were many ambitions in his head. He could become the richest person in the world, or the strongest Zoldyck, or just do nothing and take a break. He even imagined himself in each of these situations. This also gave him some kind of joy he never knew he could experience. What did he do to me? Illumi thought to himself as he pondered about these new feelings and ambitions all night. Chapter 7. Another year has passed. Rex spent most of his time fighting on the 190th floor and then in his own room in the Heavens Arena, recreating his opponent's attacks and techniques or training Nen. This sounded easier than done, but since Rex has a certain condition where he cannot train his body and Nen, the nerves in his body cannot increase or grow, which means that he has made zero progress in techniques. His Nen capacity also could not grow, as well as his Nen manipulation, emission, enhancement and so on. However, this never brought him down. as he felt a certain something after every punch, kick, ren, or any injury. He couldn't exactly say what, but it felt like the world owed Rex more and more. In fact, it was a little eerie. He also spent a lot of time reading, which he didn't do very often in his previous life, and it even made him very tired and bored, but he was sort of forced to gain a lot of general knowledge, otherwise he would stand like the ultimate idiot in any discussion. Exclamation mark. But at the moment Rex was not training or reading. Illumi had visited him because Rex asked him for something. "Oh hey Rex, are you finally going to teach me Nen today? You know I'm stuck on the 180th floors, right?" Illumi asked Rex, while going to Rex's bed and then sit on it. "Not really," Rex said, who had opened a cabinet that was next to a refrigerator and pulled something out of it. "You see that? That's the joystation. Freshly bought." "Oh, I heard about that," said Illumi, who still didn't know what Rex's plan was. "And what about it now?" "Well, I bought a new 2-player game yesterday along with the joystation, Terror of the Zombie Monsters. And I found out yesterday that you can only play it in pairs." "And that's why you brought me here?" "Yeah, why not?" "Oh man," Illumi said, a little disappointed. "If you must." Rex took 2 controllers out of the closet and plugged them into the joystation. After that, the 2 of them played for quite a while, ate some ice cream, and just chatted, which is what friends do. This current Illumi is difficult to distinguish from last year's, but Rex's presence in his life has changed many of his thought processes. "This fucking game," Rex shouted, almost crushing the console with his feet, but Illumi somehow managed to stop him. But when Illumi took another look at Rex, he remembered something he had wanted to ask him months ago. "You Rex." "What? I told you before about why I dyed my hair black, didn't I?" replied Rex before Illumi could finish his sentence. Illumi stared at Rex for a couple of seconds with a look that could kill. He always hated it when Rex interrupted him. "No, that's not what I mean. It's just that." "Yeah? I've never seen you grow." "Oh, so you finally noticed?" "Well, you know, I thought you just had a growth disorder or something, but even your hair and fingernails and other stuff never grew." Rex stared at Illumi for a few more seconds and then at the ceiling, not knowing what to do, but then he came to a conclusion. "Okay, if I have to. Actually I was going to teach you Nen after I fulfilled my last condition, but if I have to." "Oh, and what would your last condition be?" asked Illumi. "It's better if you don't know. You know, it would be okay if I taught you Nen, but it can also end up deadly, you see? Are you willing to accept that compromise?" Rex told, as he held out his hand. "Yeah sure," Illumi said without hesitation as he shook Rex's hand. "It'll probably work out. I mean, I can't forget that he's his old dick." "Okay." Rex pulled both of his hands away from Illumi's back. "Do you see this thin luminous white layer that envelops your body?" asked Rex, who had just pierced said thin layer with his finger. "That's aura, or life energy. Everyone has it. I've just opened your aura pores as explained before, and also the ones in your eyes, which allow you to see this. It flows out like streams from all over in my body," said Illumi, who suddenly could feel a powerful sensation from his body. "But wait a minute. Isn't it dangerous to have it flowing out of my body all the time?" "Yes, it's your life energy that you're losing right now. You'll probably get tired if you keep letting it flow out, and when it's all drained out, you'll collapse," Rex mentioned, veiling the dead part, so Illumi wouldn't panic later, in case he couldn't manage to control his aura. Rex clapped to turn Illumi's concentration back on him, as he looked very intrigued by the new knowledge. "Close your eyes and find a posture that makes you as much comfortable as possible." Illumi walked to the bed and afterwards was lying down. "Now imagine that your aura circulates like blood through your whole body. From the top of your head, over your right shoulder, into your left hand and down your legs. Ready? Now imagine that this flow comes to a halt. And one more thing, if you ever stand in front of your father again, please don't tell him that I taught you Nen and other stuff. He's an assassin and all." Rex could only marvel as cold sweat slid down his face. Illumi had caught up on his meditation that had lasted 3 years in a few minutes and had quickly mastered 10. Ha ha ha. Don't worry, there's the fast way and the slow way. Rex formed tons of excuses that always made him feel a little bit better, but every time he looked at Illumi again they disappeared. It was clear to Rex. Rex evolved in the 7 years he spent in the Hunter x Hunter world from a larva to a praying mantis. The difference is enormous, but Illumi is something like a lion cub that will evolve into something much worse than a simple lion. He is a monster. This talent is just inhumane. Haha. Speaking of talent, Neo is just 12 years old if my memory doesn't deceive me. I wonder if he has completed the Hunter exam yet? Well, knowing him, he's long since thrown away the note and just does what he wants to do. Well, as long as he doesn't join the Phantom Troop, everything is fine. I shouldn't have said that. What's the matter, Rex? Why do you look so reminiscent in old memories? Illumi asked him. I have another question, Illumi continued. My aura looks so thin and weak. Well, unlike yours, does that come naturally with time? Haha. Illumi, you probably think everything comes to you as a present, but no, I'll teach you later. After this sentence Rex went to the sink and filled a glass with water, which he then brought back to Illumi and placed it on the floor, whereupon he broke off a pencil and put it in the glass. That was my pencil. Come on, stop lying down and sit on the floor, I don't have all day. Illumi obeyed Rex and his further commands and listened to his explanations, always eagerly. So now we have to see exactly how the water changes. After this sentence, a part of Illumi's aura enveloped the glass. It was a bit too early to do this test, since Illumi didn't have much control over his aura at the moment, but that didn't bother Rex much, because Rex was never really the kind of person who liked to delay things, and Rex's own curiosity as to whether his daily zoo, shopping, movie theater visits had somehow influenced Illumi to be a different Nen type. But the only thing he could notice was that the pencil was moving a little. He still plunged his finger in to check if Illumi might not be a transmutant, but this did not seem so. Illumi was and remains clearly a manipulator. Haha. Illumi, did the whole year I spent with you not move you emotionally at all? Did you really not like anything? Rex uttered as he fell down on his knees in a comical way, almost looking like he was crying. Illumi looked at him in confusion. What do you mean? I liked everything. Except that one time when you stole a gorilla from the zoo and locked it in my room. It was a joke between friends. If you'd had a few friends before me, you'd understand. Haha. Illumi gave a weak laugh. Ha, between friends, right? Yes. Between friends. What else? Rex gave Illumi a fist bump. So now get out of my room, I still have to train and stuff. But never use Nen against any of your opponents. First, it's pretty dangerous and life-threatening to the person. Second, there's a chance the person themselves will acquire Nen. Illumi gave a nod and closed the door. Between friends, huh? Wait, he didn't answer my question at all. Well, I don't really care about that now. It's been another 1.5 years of training, information gathering, and copying techniques. In these times, the muscles and the Nen were not the only things that Rex was striving for. No. Rex was also interested in the combat experience. Knowing each time the techniques, the thought processes, the destinations of the kicks or fists and whatever belongs in a fight. Just 6 months ago Rex entered the 200th floor class, and just yesterday he defeated his 10th opponent, but it was also quite close for him, because he had already experienced 3 defeats because of stupid events. With the 10th victory it means nothing else than that he can fight against a floor master, and right now he is watching various DVD cassettes of fights in which floor masters have fought with. Everything was observed within. He wanted to pick an opponent with whom he could get the biggest possible effect with his Hatsu spare body, and one opponent struck him as quite good. Snake Monarch, it will be you. Chapter 8. Thousands of people gathered to watch a showdown, whether it was in the arena or in front of a television. The crowd was eager and could not wait a second longer. Half of them wore crab masks that covered their faces and shouted Rex's name repeatedly throughout the whole time. About the other half wore green snake masks, the same as the mask that Snake Monarch wore. The wait is over, it's time. This entire arena is shaking with joy. Finally Snake Monarch enters the stage. Many fans shot roses and chocolates into the stage. Snake Monarch, you can do it. Show the dwarf who's boss. Please marry me, Snake. The opponent is Rex Chorists, a rookie who has been fighting for 2 years on the 190th floor and rose to the 200th only half a year ago. There he fought against the elite of the arena and barely got the required 10 wins to fight a floor master. They say he wears a mask to hide his ugly face. Who knows? Maybe we'll see his face for the first time today. What have I done to you? Rex thought to himself as he listened to the female commentator. He looked up at Snake Monarch. He was a tall slim man who wore a traditional red Chinese attire depicting golden dragons. Herewith I announce today's epic battle. 3, 2, 1, fight. In a split second Rex dashed to Snake Monarch and was going to give him an endorsed fist in the abdomen, as he himself was too small to hit the face. But Snake just blocked the fist, took a knife out of his dress and tried to strip Rex's shirt sleeve a bit. Huh? Ryu? No. Shoo, Snake muttered to himself. To his regret, his knife could only graze the shirt without causing any damage to it. Oh, I see. You thought I was an easy opponent, didn't you? The reason why Snake thought this was very simplistic. In an urgent position where the opponent standing in front of you can strike any point of your body, you obviously don't guard your clothes with nen, but your head and chest. Before the fight, Rex watched a lot of fights of Snake Monarch, and also some before he developed nen, so he could see his Hatsu and its conditions. His Hatsu was to manifest nen snakes, which he could control at his will. But they appeared only in clothes, where he made a cut. He can use any weapon to make the cuts, as long as he made it himself. Hoo. If you know my Hatsu, why didn't you show up to the fight naked like my other adversaries? I mean, it's not illegal, is it? Rex stared at him without saying anything, but in truth he was trying intensely to keep his Ryu focused on his eyes and legs upright, waiting all the while for Snake to unpack his key move. And then it happened. Snake jerkily threw thousands of glass pieces from his sleeve at Rex, each of them filled with nen, but Rex had already prepared for it, and used Ko on his legs. His leg muscles tightened intensely. It was like pedo, but on a much smaller scale, but with this power he jumped a considerable distance with a lot of speed to the ceiling. He aimed at the lamps that illuminate the whole arena, and he also penetrated them with his arms, successfully destroying them. The commentator was the first to speak, and she also wanted to calm the panic a bit, but she herself didn't see that it was Rex who had caused it. What just happened? The lights suddenly went out. Dear guests, it seems that the power. It was Rex who did that. Take a look at the ceiling, a man who had suddenly appeared next to the commentator said. The commentator tried to look up, but it was hard to see anything because her eyes had not yet adjusted to the darkness. Then she turned off the speakers and turned to face the man. Who are you? What are you doing here? I'm a hunter, the man said, also having his card out as proof. What? The commentator quickly turned the speakers back on. Dear audience, it seems that a hunter had visited us. What, a hunter? You're kidding. No, it's true. Look, in the room. There's a big man next to Kona. Dear onlookers, nice to meet you. I am the hunter Naiki. The hunter introduced himself and began to comment on the rest of the fight in the microphone. Why? Because he was bored and liked to draw attention to himself. Rex threw his arms away from the lamps and jumped down from the ceiling. He landed on the edge of the arena so he wouldn't fall right into Snake Monarch, who was waiting in the middle. So, now watch this. Rex again jumped towards Snake Monarch, who was in the middle of the arena, and gave him several blows. Since Snake's eyes were not yet adapted to the darkness, he was very much surprised by Rex's attacks. Even if he used N, his aura radius of 1 mere meter was far too small to react to the blitz-like attacks. The result was that Snake Monarch could do nothing but fall to the ground and spitting blood from the many kicks that followed. You son of a bitch. Rex dodged backwards as Snake pulled out a knife and swung it in Rex's direction. Like a mole, Snake tried to dodge Rex's attacks, but couldn't do anything but get hit, so the fight went on for minutes, and every second Snake used up more and more ore to keep up his Nen attacks, as well as his N. But Rex did not have this problem, because his eyes were amplified many times by the spare body. But even that had an end. It looked like a miracle. Snake Monarch, who all the time was protecting himself from Rex's attacks and could only block every other attack, held Rex's fist and cut Rex's sleeve with his knife. Rex then jerkily wanted to take off his shirt. But something inside him told him it was time. And when the Nen Snake manifested, Snake Monarch suddenly laughed. Ka-hee-hee-hee-hee. Ha-hee-hee. Ha. 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 Ha 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 ha. You idiot. Do you really think you could kill a floor master with such a ridiculous trick? ? Rex couldn't help but look at him in confusion. Don't tell me. Ha. Yes, I was just playing. Didn't you know that snakes see infrared? You must know that I love watching people despair. Snake kept laughing and tried to cover his face with his hands, but his grin was so big that it was impossible. After that, he made a hand gesture, which controlled the snake, and the snake subsequently bit Rex on the neck without a moment's delay. Come on, show me your face. You will die. 100%, Snake went to Rex and tore off the mask. But to his expectation, behind the mask was not a terrified face looking at death, but a face that wore a smile full of determination. And with that smile, Rex first fell to his knees, and then laid on the floor, his left hand pressing against the bite mark, while the other hand fiddled at his leg. But this reaction frustrated Snake Monarch, who then kicked Rex out of the arena with a Nen kick, so that he hit the wall, in front of the audience, and made a crater there. The people quickly ran out of their seats, not wanting to be involved in the fight. Ladies and gentlemen, Rex is outside the arena. Which means nothing else than 1 minus point for Rex. He has 10 seconds left to enter the arena again. In the shouting of the cheers, Snake got closer and closer to Rex, until he was standing in front of him. What's wrong with you? Snake was confused by Rex's face. It was a face of a winner. But then Rex's muscles started to tense more and more. Ha, now you feel the pain of the toxin, huh? That's one of my favorite neurotoxins. Snake Monarch glared at Rex and opted to kick him again. Ugh, Rex couldn't help but gasp in pain. Huh? Don't you want to know what this baby can do? Ha. This baby blocks the certain acetylcholinesterase enzyme in your synapses. This enzyme that is no longer functioning is supposed to split the neuron transmitter acetylcholine after its use, but since it is no longer there is now a lot of acetylcholine in your synapses, and this leads to a permanent stimulation in your nerves. Rex was still lying down, suffering several twitches and cramps, yet still secretly trying to do something to his legs. But after an intense sudden sweat, his pupils began to contract, causing Rex to suffer massive pain in his eyes. He stared at Snake Monarch, wanting to know what exactly he had done to his body. Snake Monarch looked Rex in the eye. You idiot. That doesn't mean anything other than your body is tensing all its muscles right now. Not much longer and it will affect your lungs or even your heart, both of which will lead to death. Then Snake Monarch began to stroke his long beard. But you know, there is a so-called antidote, the so-called atropine. Snake Monarch slashed his own attire with the knife, which caused an end snake to appear there. He put his hand in the snake's mouth, and took out a syringe from it. But it won't be cheap. You know, I love to look at the agonized faces of my victims, but money brings me more pleasure. Give me your credit card with the code and the antidote is yours. Blink twice and it's yours. Rex closed his eyes. Why? You be. Bye. Bitch. Oh, I see. Have fun dying then. Wah. Wait, Rex said, who had to swallow his spit with every word, as this toxin caused him to salivate profusely. Huh? "What do you want?" Snake Monarch said as he walked back to Rex. In his last few moments, no logical thought came out of Rex's head, but rather an overwhelming feeling. A feeling that he could not currently release with his body, which is why it was manifesting in his nen. But when Snake Monarch saw Rex, he realized that he was dead. Beep. Wah. Boom. A bomb had gone off, shredding Rex including Snake Monarch's body away to obliterate any trace of their existence. The hunter, Naiki, who was applying gil, ignored the shouting of the spectators, and looked at the dissolving dust. "Shit, I originally went here to recruit that Rex kid. Oh man, somehow these misfortunes always have to happen around me." Then he noticed something very strange. This can't be. Chapter 9. Nen. It began to escape from Rex's now non-existent physical body. It started to fall into itself, changing and evolving. It began to mirror Rex's beliefs and feelings. And it began to leave out certain conditions. Because without a user, the Nen was freer than any human being. The end result. Well, it started to change qualitatively. The Nen shone brighter than the sun and was clearer than any mountain water. But this Nen was also suddenly pulled to a cave in a speed faster than even light. There it merged, and like a last piece of a puzzle, completed itself with the body that had been waiting for 2.5 years to be used. The body, which looked the same from the very beginning, began to deform explosively. The hair grew longer, the body bigger, and the muscle fibers increased and strengthened. The entire neural system was reconstructed, and also other things took the pleasure to strengthen and improve. The end result was a body made for fighting and martial arts that looked very muscular, but also quite lean and slender. But most importantly, it appears that due to an unknown variable, his brain underwent a significant change, which would lead to a noticeable shift in his behavior, cognition, and most importantly, his decision-making in the future. Very important, especially the unknown variable. Suddenly Rex opened his eyes, but he saw black. He got up again on the floor and tried to remember the last events. I died. Suddenly he had felt a great urge to laugh full of joy, because during the time in the Heavens Arena he still had many doubts whether his soul would really end up in the spare body, or would be lost forever. But he ignored this, knowing that what he did might be something special or fascinating in the human world, but compared to the dark continent where the Chimera ants dwelled, it was nothing. His aura spread in a flash to its maximum. Its radius was about 30 meters, a bit larger than half of Kite's radius. He observed the surroundings and his own body with his N. Wow! This is great. If I were a girl, I would have fallen in love with this body immediately. Then it struck him. Damn it, I forgot to bring clothes here. Whatever, I'll just steal some. He ran for a few steps. But from his steps came not a single sound. So that silent step, in the arena I could only ever imitate it improperly. Wait a minute, I have to try something that I've been wanting to do in the arena all along. Then Rex went into a fighting stance in front of the cave wall and hit a simple jab. His fist reached the cave wall with tremendous speed and created a huge crater in the aftermath. Then Rex thought again. 2.5 years. With a multiplier of 4. That makes a whole decade of fighting, combat experience, learning techniques as well as basically using them, muscle training and Ren training that not only increased my aura reserves, but also had a positive effect on my muscles including bones, which made them quite strong. Rex began to manipulate his aura and formed a rather small simple skull between both his fingers, which he held outstretched. Then he tried to add a spine to the skull. When that was done he added ribs, arms, legs, finally ending up with a skeleton that only very slightly looked bad in some places. This is fun. So is this a privilege that the talented had? Rex spent the rest of his time in the cave. In it, he finally put martial arts he had been trying to copy in the arena to proper use. For several hours. But once more, this too has come to an end. Who are you? A voice sounded from the direction of the entrance. Rex's head began to turn in a blink and saw a girl. She had pink hair and wore a white mask that went very well with her white doctor's coat suit. Who are? How long? As Rex analyzed the atmosphere between the two, it was clear to him that the girl was not under the control of a manipulator or had evil intentions. He was concerned with how long she had seen him training naked. She looked at him strangely. Is that really Rex? According to Neo, he is much smarter, stronger and more brilliant than even Neo. And Neo himself is a monster. Is Boss really not mistaken about him? Am I in the right island? Thousands of thoughts dove into her, just waiting to be answered. I just got here. But don't be angry at the question I'm about to ask you. I really don't want to hurt you, the girl said so she could ease the situation a bit and not to cause a fight. Are you Rex? All of a sudden a lot of malicious aura came out of Rex. Rex took a fighting stance, which at any time could rip the girl's head out, despite being more than 30 meters away. When the girl saw that, she immediately panicked. No. I'm sorry, my name is Sanbika. I really don't want anything bad from you. My boss just sent me to you here and said that you're a great candidate for the hunter exam for the next year. Since I see you've already mastered Nen at a considerable level. What does your boss hope I'll do if I'm a hunter? Asked Rex to Sanbika, to hopefully learn more from her boss. Unfortunately I'm not allowed to mention the name here, but boss is a hunter like me, but he's aiming for the 3 stars, and for that he has to take special people under his arm and let them grow strong. People who have enough potential to become known as a 2-star hunter themselves. Sanbika took a map from one of her coat pockets. I know you're very over-defensive, but this is not a bomb and I'm just going to put it on the ground here. And before you ask me, these are the coordinations of the hunter test. It's going to take place in about a year. This is a 1 in a million opportunity. And if you don't want to be the boss's student, I've seen you practice your techniques here. My master is a strong hunter. He knows more techniques than your boxing and karate. She looked at Rex again. He broke his fighting stance and wore a smile on his face. She turned around and quietly walked off. The situation has loosened up a bit. Now would be the best time to get away from this verminous pervert. Wait. Sanbika slowly and calmly turned around again, but inwardly hoped that Rex would leave her alone. Yes. Do you have any clothes? She took off her cloak and handed this over. Thank you, said Rex, who shook her hand. But as she did so, Rex hid a very small aura piece at her back. It was so small, transparent like a ghost and almost non-existent without any feelings attached to it. A novice Nen user could never have discovered or even felt it in life. Killing her now would not give me any information, and my aura was not rejected by her body, means she is most likely not under a manipulation hatsu. She went to the lion's den of her own free will. Respect. Like an assassin, Rex snuck past several white-clad guards who guarded the largest underground drug factory in all of NGL. Each of them was armed to the teeth, but even so, the bullets could not have passed through Rex's body, which was encased in a strong layer of 10, on which in was applied. Step by step Rex came closer and closer to the still unofficial king of NGL. And it was not long before he was standing in the sealed room, behind the king's chair. Rex carefully took a newly purchased Ben's knife that he had captured with the money from the Heavens Arena. And quickly sliced his Ben's knife deep within the king's throat. Loads of blood spurted from the opening. Ugh! The king fell down, covering and pressing the wound spot with his hands, but the blood flowed and flowed. The king rolled on the ground in pain, wanting to look the assassins in the eye. Ghhh. Ta. What? The king wanted to scream at him and had so many questions in his head, but since his vocal cords were torn and he couldn't even breathe in anymore, all that came out was incomprehensible talk. The facial expressions of terror, dread and rage were all mixed into one. Deep inside, the king felt that it cannot and must not end today. But from his eyes came the last tears. The fountain of blood also slowly began to stop. In the end it left a huge puddle of blood. And it was not long before the king was finally dead. When Rex shone a flashlight into the king's eyes again, He was eager to get out without any guards coming in now. "I'm sorry, Gyro, but you're just a variable I can't allow to live," Rex muttered to himself, trying not to feel too bad. After that he looked again at his map, which indicated the coordination of the hunter exam. 1 week, Rex looked at the corpse of Gyro again. Money. That just 100 million Jenny was already enough to buy the top secret location of a king. I cannot make connections with people who would sell me without a second thought. ... I wonder if you are one of them too, boss? And with this thought Rex fled the underground factory, his next destination being the Kaken Kingdom, where the next hunter exam was taking place. Chapter 10. Small reminder, he's blind. Rex climbed out of the Zeppelin that had just landed at Kaken's hangar. When he reached the end of the airport and the automatic doors opened, the warm air that makes up the new warm climate suddenly struck him, startling Rex for a second. He never experienced this feeling before, since he never flew due to his poverty in his previous life. He walked happily and with a lot of self-confidence through the streets to arrive at a certain coordination. But through his end he noticed that on the street there were many tired workers cleaning many flowers and flower petals from the ground with their brooms. "Hey," said Rex with an outstretched arm reaching towards the sky swinging, as he walked up to a rather elderly-looking cleaner. "What's going on? Why is there flower stuff all over the place?" The man looked at him confused at first, but when he saw the boy's blindfold and clothes, which looked rather neutral and pale, he concluded that this boy must be a foreigner. "Oh, yesterday there was a nationwide festival. You should know that the 6th wife of the king is now pregnant to his 10th child. Her name shall be Kacho. All of Kaken had a party as they do for every child to be birthed, but now we have to clean up the place. I wanted to hey, where are you going?" When Rex had enough information, he went on and ignored the old man, but not without leaving a 100,000 Jenny bill on the ground. "Kacho. I can't take it anymore. The succession contest war arc. Oh fuck, I was just an anime watcher and never got into the manga." Rex was getting more and more nervous as he thought how much he actually doesn't know and therefore kicked a can away from his path due to pure frustration. As a HxH fan, I've been focusing more on the Dark Continent, as I saw it as being much more exciting and cool. I mean, there are so many strong and dangerous creatures, and such valuable treasures. The nitro rice alone, a rice that gives you more vitality and thus gives you a higher life expectancy, but the succession contest arc? I can only sort of recall half of the Venom Beaster. And a couple of princes like Camilla, Benjamin, or that Czech guy or something. Rex tried as best he could to leave the matter behind and focus on his ultimate destination, which is not very far away. But suddenly a huge fat, yet also muscular guy ran into him, along with 3 dangerous-looking guys. "Hey, look where!" But Rex already knew the whole scam, and just suddenly started running. You're courting for death, cultivate sheer manhwa reference, said one of the 3 fellow runners and wanted to box Rex. But Rex, not even needing DN as his fighting instincts were amped to the max, got his head a little to the right, turned around and kicked the guy in the shin. "AHH. My leg," the bastard screamed, as he fell to the ground. "Hugo? What did you do to him, Upek?" said the boss. "Chico, I don't think my leg is doing so well anymore." The boss, who turned out to be Jaco, knelt to look at the leg. "That bastard. He broke Hugo's leg. Beat the crap out of him." But when Jaco looked toward Rex, all he could see was air. "That fucker is gone." After a few hours of walking and through a few alleys, Rex finally reached the coordination, which was very much at the edge of the city. It was a building, but there was a twist to it. Is this really the coordination? An abandoned building? He looked through the fence. It looked like the building had been abandoned during construction, with almost only a steel scaffold taking up the space. Rex went through the entrance. The atmosphere was sticky gray and foggy, but Rex used N to find a manhole, which was also in the note from the pink-hairy girl. But he found nothing anywhere. Rex went back to the entrance to analyze the blueprint with his N, and immediately recognized a strange design. In the middle of the building existed a locked room without doors, which was closed by 4 walls. Rex ran back to the building, punched a hole in the wall, and peeked through the hole. The fact that there was not a single opening and that the room was airtight prevented my nen from flowing through the space, which is why I couldn't find it within. Is that the first preliminary test? Rex took off the manhole cover and climbed down a ladder. This feels more like the Phantom Troop than a hunter exam. And why was I the first to arrive? Were there or are there multiple ways? Many questions buzzed through his head, but when he finally touched the ground, and followed the arrow on the wall, he suddenly met many faces in a huge room after only a few minutes. All of them stared at him with a homicidal expression, a few of them analyzed him, and a few of them suddenly started talking to their partners. Oh man, looks like I'm too late to make friends with anyone from here. Oh never mind, if I'm going to be a loner, I'm going to be a real loner. Rex started doing 1,000 push-ups to show his dominance over the others. It's to symbolize that wasting energy now is not a problem for him. What's wrong with him? This guy is crazy. But suddenly a person created a shadow over Rex. Hey you, the hunter exam is about to start, why are you wasting your energy already? Rex somehow found the voice familiar and he extended his N radius. This is Tunpa. Wow. As Rex was still in thought, as something didn't make him sense, Tunpa gave Rex his hand to help him up. Hello, mate. I'm Tunpa, how about we team up? But Rex didn't hear a single word that shot out of Tunpa's mouth. There was only one thought he had now. How did this fucker survive with his weak physique? I'm Rex, nice to make your acquaintance, Rex said as he also bowed at the same time. Tunpa straightened Rex's bent upper body back up. Oh, don't worry, Tunpa said as he took a piece of candy from his pocket. Here, take this, it will give you all your energy and more. Rex took the candy from Tunpa's hand. There are 2 possibilities now, either I have created a butterfly effect by my recent actions, or... Rex unwrapped the candy, swallowed it and waited for Tunpa's reaction. But apparently nothing happened to his facial expression. Tunpa is therefore, Rex felt something approaching him from behind. It was a person, and from the physique that he could feel with his nen, it was a girl. The girl cautiously moved to the side and kick. He was kicked in the middle of his belly by a girl. Bah, came out of Rex's mouth as he felt the candy magically leave his stomach and fly through his mouth. Did she do something like, hey you, didn't your parents ever teach you not to accept candies from strangers? This scumbag is poisoning other candidates here with his sweets. That's Tunpa the Rocky Crusher. Go ahead, thank me or you would have been eliminated before the test even started. Haha, you should thank me for relaxing my muscles and removing my nen from my stomach. Rex covered his tummy and pretended it hurt. Ah, thank you. But I'm an orphan. Never mind, said the girl as she turned her head in embarrassment. You know what I mean. And why are you the only one coming from this direction? The bell rang. Suddenly everyone stopped talking as the golden door in the middle of the room opened. Welcome dear guests. A man with a deformed face stepped out of the door, his eyes very pushed to the side, a huge nose covering his whole face, and his mouth pushed all the way down to his chin. The teeth that he hid in his mouth were very big, especially the incisors. As a whole he looked like a horse. With my arrival, I now announce the 271st Hunter Test. You still have the choice to leave before the first challenge. But nobody moved. Except Rex, who started doing push-ups again. Kaikiki. Since everyone is so determined with their choice, follow me. The hunter took out a small device from his pocket. The device was square thick, and had a round red button in the middle, which the hunter squeezed as well. In the blink of an eye, the sewer wall turned 90 degrees, revealing a new path. The hunter examiner was the first to step through the secret passageway, and it wasn't a few seconds before everyone else was moving as well. It was a huge, elongated room. The walls and floor were painted green, but the ceiling was blue, and had been decorated with clouds. At the other end of the room was a golden door, this time with a Chinese dragon which had been decorated with gems as eyes. But the thing that stood out the most in the room were two huge conveyor belts that stretched along the side walls. After everyone had looked around, the examiner hooted to draw attention back to himself. Ahem. This is the first room of this hunter exam. The whole hunter exam is divided into 5 rooms. In this room the body will be tested. The examiner pressed the button again. Suddenly, various stuff came out from the conveyor belts. A bowling ball, a feather, a rock, 50 kilograms dumbbells. As you can see, from the 2 conveyors various stuff comes out. In total there are 480 different things, which exactly corresponds to the number of participants. You can now take any of the things, but all are labeled with a note. This note also indicates how heavy the object weight. The goal is that you carry, in 30 minutes, in front of the Golden Gate, also in front of me, something that weighs at least 100 kilograms, and before I forget, hurting an examiner is forbidden. Suddenly everyone ran to the conveyor belts to clutch something in their clutches that weighed at least 100 kilograms and was convenient to carry. Everyone had to hurry. With panicked faces they checked the notes, because the choice was limited. Although there was even a tree, there were still things like a dice or a plastic cup. But, there was someone who didn't move at all, and, like the examiner, went to the golden door. The examiner sat down on a chair and looked at the boy, who covered his eyes with a band, who had followed him. "How old are you, boy?" asked the examiner, who must have been a bit impressed by the boy. "I'm 12, sir, soon to be 13 in a few months." "But why do you care?" asked Rex to the examiner. The examiner took a cigarette out of his pants pocket and lit it by flicking his fingers very quickly and strongly, which produced sparks. "You know, you have great talent in you, boy. I don't know many hunters who have bodies as strong as yours. What did your parents feed you?" "Kaikiki." The man laughed and wiped away a tear of joy with his little finger. "You know what, boy? I like you. That's why I'm going to give you a lesson." But suddenly the examiner's kind face disappeared and changed into a serious one. "Looking at you like this, with your aura reserves and Nen intensity, I have to warn you. Never get cocky. There are people in the world who will hunt you and have a perfect counter against you. Don't follow the fame, always stay low-key." Rex looked at him confused and scratched the back of his head. "Why are you telling me this, sir?" The man looked behind Rex to check that no one was around or looking at them. The examiner put his hand in front of his face and teared it. What was hiding behind the face was an other face. Startled, Rex took a step away, but when he cast it in at the examiner something lit up in him. "Oh, I see," Rex said softly. "You've hidden your real face under that Nen mask. But why?" The man put his hand on his face again, and his mask, which he had just torn, renewed itself. "I tell you that because I see a lot of potential in you. At such an age I've never seen such a strong Nen. If everything goes well you will be a very prominent person in the world. But always stay low-key. The more people know about your existence, the more opponents you will have, so next time try not to do push-ups or other obvious things." Chapter 11. As Rex and the examiner continued their talk, the first people arrived. They gasped harshly as they carried or rolled the items. Then they placed their items in front of the golden door and ultimately sat on them. Now their task was to protect the objects from other examinees before the 26 minutes were up. One of them was the girl that had recently kicked Rex. She ran up to him and tapped him on the shoulder. "Hey, aren't you going to start the challenge?" Rex turned and pointed to her object. "Well, you're not much better right now." "Huh, what do you mean?" When Rex suddenly pointed his finger behind her, she gazed behind her, only to catch sight of a relaxed Tunpa lying on her anvil. "Huh?" she uttered, running up to him with a raised fist. "Get the fuck out of here, Tunpa. Go find yourself an object somewhere else. If you don't piss off now, then..." She thought about what she was going to say next. "Then what?" Tunpa said sullenly as he started nose-picking with his middle finger. "You..." "Shit, She punched with her fist but stopped Tunpa's face. He, Tunpa laughed with a devilish face. His next words were a bit louder. You can't hurt anyone after all. Isn't that right, Examiner? The Examiner nodded. You, with her face puzzled, she didn't know exactly what to do with him. You're a dirty bastard. Have you no shame? Why should I? Tunpa asked as he picked in his other nostril. But all of a sudden Rex was standing in front of the two. Hey, what's your name? I'm Tunpa. Not you. The girl pointed to herself. You mean me? Who else? Said Rex in a teasing voice. TSK, Gabriella. Why? Rex walked until he arrived in front of the anvil. So, how am? Gabriella, what? Said Tunpa as he eyed her with suspicion. I wouldn't have trusted a man with a name like that. You dare humiliate me? Gabriella uttered, clenching her fist very hard. You'll regret it, I swear. What? Said Tunpa, again quite sullenly, as he pointed to her arms. I've never seen such a muscular girl before, I totally mistook you for a man. Tunpa then looked at Rex. Wasn't different with you, was it? Damn it, Tunpa is right. It's probably better if I don't validate his claim. Tunpa quickly raised his alarms when he heard this, anticipating Rex's next maneuvers, while the Examiner stood behind them all and laughed amusingly, viewing the situation as a hilarious joke. Rex touched his earlobes and said, You want proof? But first, please let me know how much this weighs. Gabriella answered bluntly, 200 kilograms. God must have intended for it to be exactly 200, I suppose. Rex swiftly slipped the blindfolds around his eyes, showed Gabriella and Tunpa what was behind them for a split second, and then quickly wrapped them back around his head before Gabriella could ask what he meant by those words. Tunpa finally started to pester out with a sentence after feeling a little restrained. Rex? I'm sorry, only to be interrupted by Gabriella. Your face, it's missing not only the eyes, even the eyelids along with the surrounding skin. Did they operate it out during your birth? Gabriella spoke with a caring tone, not wanting to offend Rex in any way but also displaying some curiosity. Rex's jaw slightly opened and his mouth edges slightly dipped as he struggled to deal with his newfound empathy. What was his name again? She gives me the exact same vibe as that police guy. I should definitely go and see him. However, aren't I listed as missing in the system? As the three were chatting, a circle formed around Rex, Tunpa, Gabriella, and the Examiner as more and more examinees who had met the quota gathered. Rex whispered, Save your words, as he wrapped his two hands around the enormous anvil. Behold the strength of a blind man. Huge muscles suddenly developed around Rex's long, black sleeves, which were already tight, and the anvil shook and flew until it reached the very high ceiling, where it cratered it with a loud metallic sound. Everyone peered, keeping their mouths away from their eye sockets. But because the anvil was also subject to gravity, it struck Rex with a considerable force. Rex extended his left hand and managed to catch the anvil with his palm before it could slam him in the face. The force caused his feet to be pressed a few centimeters into the ground, causing cracks in the floor. After that, he began to accelerate the anvil with his other hand, which led to the anvil spinning on his hand. And just as in basketball, Rex was now using just his index fingers to hold the anvil. Of course, it was still above his head because Rex couldn't help it because the anvil was too large and his arms were still too short. His right hand made a few more strong swings, and the anvil started to rotate more and more. The crowd grew until it was completely crammed, with those in the rear pushing those in the front for better view. Well, now that I have enough company, I may start now. While Tunpa, Gabriella, the Examiner, and actually all the examiners were waiting for his next great thing, Rex reflected to himself with a huge, almost devious grin. The rotation eventually slowed to a standstill as Rex started to inject his powerful nen into his index finger, which caused the finger to pierce the anvil. The enormous anvil was then placed on the ground. However, it was impossible to refer to the anvil as a whole since, upon closer examination, it became apparent that two cracks had arisen that stretched from the center hole to the edges. Rex took one of the pieces and flung it to Gabriella since the anvil was split in two by the cracks. Because of what Rex accomplished, Gabriella was still in disbelief before she luckily caught the anvil piece just in time. "Next time, please let me know." "Yeah, will be okay. Time to relax, huh? How do I handle the other piece?" Rex then began scanning the space until he spotted Toonpa. "Oh, I have an idea." "Hey Toonpa, you can have this if you like," shouted Rex. Toonpa started to speak. While shrinking. "You're not going to toss it my direction, are you?" Rex responded. Yeah, don't worry about it," as he stepped away from the second anvil piece. Then he turned to face the inspector. "Hey, given that the anvil weighs about 200 kilograms and that its two sections weigh roughly the same, you may consider them both as 100 kilograms, right?" "Yes, as long as there are no significant shards, it is acceptable. The only element left is my part. How much time remains now?" In a monotonous voice, the examiner remarked. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Rex stretched out his end to the furthest extent in search of an appropriate object. He then made his way through the people standing around him. Everyone made room for him. Rex stated cheekily, placing his palm on the enormous rock that no one would have ever dared to consider as an suitable object. "That should do it." He forced his palm into the rock without using nen, his fingers piercing through, and with that firm grip he carried the giant boulder above him. He was regarded by the others as a monster. It was questioned where the little kid got his strength from. The crowd parted to make room for the blind and frail-appearing youngster, who now arrived carrying a boulder, which he then placed down and sat on. Even using N, I still can't read the note on it, but that ought to be plenty. Then, with a cheerful grin on his face, he turned to face his colleagues, the examinees, as if he had come for a little innocent fun rather than to take the test. 2 minutes later, 4 bells that were concealed in the room's corners rang. 1. After some while, the examiner got up. "Now that the majority of you have gathered here, everyone must stand with their object while the assistants verify the criteria. If anyone is caught cheating, they will be immediately disqualified, and if their object weighs less than 100 kilograms, they failed the hunter exam." A few more men in fine suits entered the room through the same hidden entrance the examinees came from. There were a total of 10 of them. 168. That is the number of attendees that made it to the second room. Everyone glanced eagerly at the new room after passing through the golden Chinese door. This time, there were 2 rows of evenly spaced thin mats on the floor. It was a much larger room overall. Red, white, and gold were the major colors used to paint the room. Naturally, Rex was troubled by the colors and started asking about the area via Gabriella. The color of the wooden flooring was a stunning, shining gold. Red crosses on the white walls, but what made them remarkable was that at every 2 crosses, a half-white pillars climbed up to the ceiling, whose start and end were covered in gold. Chinese lanterns were occasionally hung from the gorgeous warm dark crimson-red ceiling decoration. While a few examinees were still trying to steal the gemstone eyes of the golden dragon, which miraculously still hung on the first golden door, Rex looked at distant second door, which separated the current second room, and the unexplored third room 3. Golden door with Chinese dragon, the doors probably symbolized the next room. Rex took another look at the door. What could Brown and Liana's possibly have to do with A? Rex was still thinking when the golden door suddenly closed, trapping out 4 people in the first room. The examiner started coughing. Ahem. It's a classical dojo, as you can already see from the decor. There are enough mats here for 2 individuals. The examinees exchanged skeptical eye contact with one another since they could already guess what the upcoming test would be. You will get your number at the front by the red raffle machine. After that you can come to me, and I will tell you the number of the opponent you will fight. Having just received her number, Gabriella joined Toonpa and Rex in the corner and announced her number. I have the number 38. Rex muttered, Monotonously bored. I received the number 99. Tonpa noticed their 4 eyes as they both fixed their gazes on him. They both simultaneously asked, "What number do you have?" Tonpa said all dejectedly, "Why should I tell you, dwarf, and you lesbian, huh?" Tonpa knew examinees couldn't hurt other examinees. "Maybe if all men behaved like you, I'd be a lesbian. Humph." She spoke while twisting her upper body to the side and crossing her arms. Rex attempted to defuse the situation by saying, "Hey, calm down you two." Tonpa mirrored Gabriella's crossed position and screamed, "It wasn't me who began this fight. You." Tonpa responded, Yeah, calm down," as if he hadn't thrown oil on the fire earlier. She uncrossed her arms and pointed at Tonpa, saying, "You goblin. Do you have?" Tonpa, however, cut her off. "Hey, blind boy," Tonpa said, emphasizing the word blind heavily. "Don't we still have to go by that funny-looking examiner? We need to know who we'll fight against." "Enough if only 82 people go there. Only half of them need to know who they have to fight. We can wait here and watch them shouting our numbers while we get a glimpse of our opponent." "I see," Tonpa said with a shrug. "For a blind boy, you're pretty intelligent." "Thanks, Tonpa." But suddenly, the examiner interrupted them. "Ahem, let's move on to the next exam." Chapter 12. "Ahem. Let's move to the next exam," the hunter said when he was roughly in the middle of the room. "The rules are very simple. You must face your opponent on the mat and defeat him. To be considered defeated is when your opponent gives up, or is unable to fight, meaning that loss of consciousness and similar directly disqualifies you. You are not allowed to attack anyone except your opponent, and only on the mat. The test will be finished within 30 minutes, it starts now. Murders will result in disqualification." "Hey! Number 46. Where are you?" the first one started to shout. 87. "Are you 65? With the exception of a few intelligent people who carefully assessed their opponents for the time being, the majority, including Rex and Gabriella, rushed to their number from whence they were called. "Are you number 99? Asked a very tall, muscular man with a huge scars under his right eye, who could almost be described as giant, but who was nevertheless adorned with a surprisingly beautiful brown ponytail. "Yeah, that's me," Rex replied. "Let's get to the mats. I don't want to waste any more time." The two moved around the already occupied mats, where battles were now raging, until they discovered an unclaimed mat way back. They both prepared while standing at the other end. "On 3? Rex wondered. "Yes, but let's trade names first before engaging in a fight." Rex nodded. "I am Zenith, the leader of the infamous Mad Slashers. I have spent a decade preparing for this ordeal, and this knife in my hand is my most valuable treasure." Zenith pulled a strange-looking dagger from the sheath he was wearing around his waist. The knife was extremely thin, with rectangular hollows in the back of the blade. The edge was very sharp-looking and had 2 tips that made an odd curve slightly to the back. Although it could have appeared fragile due to the cavities, Rex knew exactly what this knife was capable of. "So he's the leader of the Mad Slashers? I often heard about them in the Heavens Arena on TV and radio when I was training. But they never appeared in the anime, and I can hardly remember them ever being mentioned in the manga. Then why does he have a Ben's knife?" Ben's knife illustration, greater than, will also be present in the comment section. "You look like you know a lot about me. Have you heard much about me in the media?" He swung the knife, which caused a little shockwave. "Or is it because of the Ben's knife?" "Both," replied Rex honestly. "But that won't be a problem for me." "Oh, you think so?" Rex used Dan to analyze the Ben's knife better. Then, he noticed something incredibly odd about it. That's quite interesting." "Well, my name is Rex, and I'll be..." He thought for a moment. "Right. I'll be at least stronger than..." The following word was spoken extremely quietly so that only Zenith could hear them. "Mryum. I don't know this guy. Is he a big shot? Are you like rivals?" "Something like that," Rex said, secretly knowing that his biggest foe was the unstoppable flow of time. "Well," Rex remarked. 3, 2, 1. Go. Zenith ran with the blade towards Rex, who didn't move a millimeter. With the arm stretched and the dagger pointed at Rex, it was already a one-fight for Zenith. But Rex just quickly moved to the side. Zenith responded by turning the knife to the side and lowering it at an angle such that Rex would be unable to flee, even if he ducked his body. Then, he swung again, causing another huge shock wave. Rex, however, sprang quickly and flawlessly landed on the blade's side. Zenith jerked the knife back to him as soon as he saw Rex standing on it. Rex, however, sprang on top of Zenith, grabbed his ponytail and yanked his hair down. Zenith fell backward and slammed the ground with his head. Because of the severe damage and pain to his head, he accidentally dropped the knife, but before it poked him and gave him a deadly hole in the chest, Rex caught it. Rex opened and looked the giant in the eye, after which he went closer and closer to the iris with his newly caught Ben's knife, but there was no reaction. He then retrieved the same flashlight he had already used to confirm Gyro's death. He then performed a pupil reflex test to make sure he hadn't accidentally killed Zenith, but fortunately there was a reaction. So, like in a classic RPG, Rex looked at the blade again. "I will now gain this Ben's knife as a reward for this victory." Again passing between the various mats, Rex walked in front of the brown door, where most of the victors had already gathered, as had the Gabriella. And among them also, Tunpa. Rex hurried to Tunpa and Gabriella, who had compiled once more, and said, "Hey Tunpa, I just saw you waiting at our corner earlier, so why are you standing here?" While scratching his back, Tunpa muttered, "Oh, my opponent was easy, he was garbage." With a questioning expression on his face, Rex turned his head in the direction of Gabriella. Tunpa rubbed his back and stated, "Oh, my opponent was easy, he was garbage." Rex turned his head to face Gabriella with a, "Is what he says true?" face. Gabriella's shoulders were shrugged. "The only thing I know was, that he here before me." Rex approached Tunpa and gave him a big hug. "Oh, you make me so proud." Tunpa pulled Rex aside while gazing at him bewilderedly. "What is wrong with you?" "Oh nothing, could you turn around?" "And why should I to actually listen to you?" Tunpa pushed Rex's patience once more, but this time he wasn't amused at his antics, so he applied a small fragment of harsh nen indirectly to Tunpa. This nen didn't even reflect 1/100th of Rex's entire nen but was still detectable to the untrained eye. "Because I told you to." "Tsk. All right." Rex gave Gabrielle a piece of paper in his hand, but she kept looking puzzled because she never saw Tunpa ever showing any signs of intelligence throughout the brief time she had with him. She took the note, bent down next to Rex's ear, and whispered while raising her hand in front of her face, "Hey, what did you do to Tunpa?" He waved his hand and muttered, "Oh nothing. You should read that note though." She glanced at the note and immediately recognized what Rex is planning, she whispered. "Number 124. Rex abruptly moved directly in front of the group of winners and raised up his two hands in the shape of a funnel in front of his face. "Number 124 is here." Tunpa immediately turned around after hearing this. "Rex. You fucking son of a..." But before he could drag Rex away from the crowd, it was already too late and Tunpa's opponent ran up to Rex in a flash. He looked average, and was well-toned. Then Rex pointed to Tunpa, who was standing next to him. The man put his hand on Rex's shoulder and said, "Thanks man." "No worries bro." All of the qualified candidates had passed through the door after a few minutes. And the first thing Rex did was spread his N as widely as he could so he could once more examine the space. The third room was very different from the second, in terms of the way it is shaped. It was wide rather than long. Trees were drawn on the walls. However, the feature that caught the most attention was the enormous abyss that stretched the width of the space, dividing the room into two, the top level, where everyone stood, and the lower level, where the next door was awaiting. Some people have descended into the depths, only to see crocodiles and piranhas that appear to have been starving here for days. Test room near 3 illustration, greater than, will also be present in the comment section. The examiner eventually made the decision to speak after all 65 candidates entered the room and the doors were shut. This test is known as the courage test. As you can already see, there is a sizable chasm teeming with ravenous creatures. A chunk of meat that was nailed to the right wall was taken by the examiner and thrown into the pit. Thousands of ferocious creatures were fighting for the piece of meat as soon as it landed, and numerous bubbles followed. But this too ended briefly, and the beasts went back to where they had been. It would be a real shame if anyone fell in complete silence. See the lengthy vines that hang over the abyss. That is your exam. You have to jump far and grab them, and with a little momentum jump onto the lower second half of the room. Cutting the vines, or pushing someone into the abyss will cause disqualification and possibly more. The examiner unexpectedly began to run and leaped swiftly across the abyss before arriving to a chair that was once again next to the new door. After that huge show, he finally sat down. In the twinkling of an eye Rex had an idea and he grabbed Tunpa's hands and threw him with a great force over the big abyss to the safe ground. When Gabriella saw this she went all the way to the back and took a big run up until she jumped off and grabbed a vine. When she got there, she lowered her position on the vine a little and began swinging until she got to the first ground's abyss wall, where she eventually pushed with her legs and used the momentum to get to the other side. At the same time, a rather powerful guy also tried his luck and survived, even made it across the abyss. Gabriella saw Tunpa, who is already full of pride, standing in front of her. Phew, now that Tunpa is already here, all that's missing is. She turned around. Rex? When she saw Rex, he was already standing in front on the same half of the room as her, but he was still holding a vine he used to jump. Don't cut it, huh? Rex slowly but surely let his nen flow more and more to the vine. From behind, the examiner casted a skeptical gaze in his direction. Shoo? Then why? Rex jerked the vine towards him with a swift, powerful pull. The vine that was attached to the metal framework that was also attached to the ceiling and stretched across the entire abyss, as well as the other vines that were attached to it, fell to the abyss. Hey! Shouted one of the examining ones. You sabotaged our path. He's right. What are we going to do? Everyone except Rex, Gabriella, Tunpa, and another person the three didn't know personally, started to panic. Damn. Without vines, you can never jump over there. I value my life more than measuring my luck. Brothers. Honestly, I wanted to give up on this test, said one examinee in shame, as he was scratching the back of his head. Rex looked back at the examiner to see what he would do now. The examiner stood up. While those who had not yet managed to jump over, I recommend you wait. The examiner took out a relatively new-looking flip phone from his pocket and quickly typed in a few numbers. He placed the phone next to his ear and waited for a certain someone to answer. Rex pondered while waiting for the caller to pick up. But since he couldn't wait to see who would answer, Rex had no choice but to apply gyo on his ears and listen for the person's voice in case they answered. Then, someone responded. What's up? The voice sounded eerily familiar to Rex. I have a little problem, Sir Netero. What kind of problem is it, Ishii boy? Are all the testers dead? Oh, don't be silly, Sir Netero, said the now beknown Ishii. It's just that. Another gifted 12-year-old? That would have to be the third one ever. The second came only last year, and the other 2 years before that. What? He is already proficient at using advanced techniques. The new generation has a lot to offer, huh? And what is the problem? Oh. That. Really? Looks like the situation is really dire. I will come, Ishii boy. It will take about an hour. I guess it's a stroke of fate that I recently had to attend the national big festival, the birth of a new Kakin princess, huh? Well then, Ishii boy, bye-bye. The examiner flipped the cell phone and stared at Rex with a face that meant a lot of trouble. Rex felt a chill sweep over his back and wondered if what he had done was the right move. Chapter 13. There was stillness and nobody moved. Some people were checking their watches, while others were sitting against the walls or around the corners, most dozing off while resting on the floor. But then, footsteps were to be heard. Tap. 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 And it was not long before the brown door opened. The examiner stood up to welcome this person. "Sir Netero. Nice of you to come." Yes, it was the legendary Isaac Netero. Rex was in awe of him because he had rested his Hatsu on Netero's metamorphosis. Netero. The current strongest Nen user known. He gave Ishi's hand a brief shake before turning to face the participants who couldn't jump over before Rex sabotaged the path. He then fixed his gaze on the four who had reached the other side. He jumped over the abyss with ease and shook Rex, but only Rex's hand. "I've seen and heard enough of you to grant you the title of Hunter title now. Welcome, Rex." The handshake became increasingly firm. "I'm sorry about what happened with the exam." "The exam isn't the subject I'm referring to." Rex was perplexed. Where else did they hear about me from?" "Oh, I'm sorry, that's not something I can say." The handshake dissolved and Netero pulled several keys from his coat pocket, with which they opened the next, bright green door. "Come with me." Netero gave Ishi one final glance as the door began to close. "What you do with the examiners is up to you, but I would end it with the four. The decision is yours though." The fifth room's final door opened onto a very long, slender hallway that ultimately led to an elevator. When Netero pressed a combination on the number buttons, the elevator went up at high speed, where the two of them entered an office-like room with dark green carpet and bookshelves all around the room. Netero handed a registration to Rex after filling it out while sitting in the chair behind the desk. "Your signature, please." Rex, still standing in front of the desk, took the document and signed it, using a fountain pen that he borrowed from Netero. Netero took the document back and put it in a shelf. He then pulled a suitcase from another shelf, set it on the desk, and used a key from his keychain to open it. Inside the suitcase Rex could see a hunter license all by itself. "So fast?" Netero took out the license and handed it to Rex. After noticing Rex's wide and wondering eyes, Netero explained, "I know it looks fast, but that's how it is when you receive a recommendation from a hunter." "Oh, so. And this hunter is? Is it this so-called boss that this pink-haired girl was talking about? Or is it an evil organization that wants my organs and my nen?" Then Netero shrugged. "Well, they told me not to reveal the identity, and you surely have a great imagination. But rest assured, if they were truly as evil as you just described, they wouldn't be in touch with me." "But..." Netero removed the bottom layer from the suitcase and took out a piece of paper, with a plane ticket. "Here are some other crucial details and a message with where you need to be." Rex took the note and the plane ticket and sensed the protruding letters with his N. "Japan?" When the Zeppelin finally arrived, Rex stood up, both his legs almost numb. "Phew, 3 hours of waiting for this shit. Never mind, at least he's here now." Rex approached the staff in the middle of the airport and displayed his hunter license. The bystanders were startled, and the slightly wealthier individuals who already owned phones wanted to snap a quick photo, but Rex had already left by the time the staff informed him of the second entrance for the Zeppelin that was only accessible by VIPs. He had to show his license once more to the bodyguards stationed outside the entrance, who took the card and ran it through the scanner. As soon as the license was verified, they quickly went to the side. All of them were bowing. "We're sorry," said one. But Rex just walked through and said, "Don't worry about it unnecessarily." Rex stood outside his room door. As a VIP, he had a whole room to himself, which will saved him some worries. He entered the room, then sat on the couch and lastly took off his backpack. He stretched out on the couch and later then pulled 2 knives from his backpack. One of them he stole just yesterday from the leader of the Mad Slashers. The other he bought at an auction in York New City, with a chunk of his fortune, which he used to kill Gyro only days later. Rex purchased the Ben's knife for a variety of reasons, including its razor-sharp edge that could easily cut through steel and the fact that it was a one-shot weapon that would instantly paralyze a target on the ground with no chance of defense. This was ideal for Rex because he didn't use his Hatsu to battle or strengthen his body like Gon and Killua did. However, something was fishy about the whole thing. Rex took a peek at Zenith's Ben's knife. Then the one he bought. I have no doubt, the two daggers are the same product as the same metal and same smith, but even then, Zenith's is much different. Bodyguards, Rex shouted to get a test subject. Quickly 3 men with black clothes, edgy-looking sunglasses and a device on their ear rushed through the door. They quickly looked around the room, only to spot a bored Rex, lying on the sofa. "What's the matter, Mr. Hunter? There doesn't seem to be a problem." "Well, it's not really an emergency or prob." He suddenly sat down after raising his upper body. "Hey, where are you going?" "We've been trained against emergencies, sir. What you're trying to do here now is not our business." "Okay," uttered Rex as he dug around in his bag once more and hollowed out his wallet. "Are these 200,000 jenny not your business either?" The 3 gave it a brief glance before leaving. "Damn, those bodyguards are really loyal guys," Rex thought to himself as he took a bite of an apple he grabbed from the fruit bowl on the table that was in the middle of the room. Suddenly he felt 3 stares coming from the door. Those bodyguards. The 3 bodyguards took 3 chairs from the dining room table and sat them in a row in front of Rex's couch. "The task is quite simple," Rex started to say. "Here's a knife, okay?" The 3 bodyguards nodded. "And I'm going to give you this knife for about a minute each time." The bodyguards nodded once again. "You have to describe to me how you feel when you hold the blade in your hands." Again, the bodyguards nodded once more. "You don't have to nod all the time." The 3 bodyguards struggled to keep their lower jaw from dropping, but nothing could stop it, and they nodded. Rex gave 200,000 jenny to each bodyguard. "Thank you very much, sir," they all said and left the room. "Yeah, don't waste it and bye-bye." Rex then took a seat on the couch once more. "Interesting," he remarked upon seeing Zenith's Ben's knife. "It differs from regular Ben's knives in that it has the power to focus and form a thin layer of aura, a tiny 10, on itself and the bodyguards, controlling their wild aura that would otherwise flow to the sky like for normal people and living things. But compared to a full Nen user, the 10 which this Ben's knife forms is nothing. However, one gets much stronger than the average person." Rex asked himself quietly, why would you create a weapon like that? And he pondered little by little, until an idea occurred to him. "Don't tell me that this was done to arouse Nen on the owners of Ben's knife." He initially rejected the notion because he found it to be way too surreal, but the more he thought about it, the more sense it began to make. When a foreign aura acts on a body, the aura nodes are forcefully awakened. If a person does not have the necessary talent to stop their flow of aura, they'll soon grow so exhausted that they'll be unable to stand or even lose consciousness. Also, there is the danger that the strange aura was maliciously directed at the body. These 2 factors alone proved that training someone Nen in this manner is prohibited. But what if this strange aura that you needed to awaken is your own? Rex once more recalled the tests he had conducted on the bodyguards. Every living being has aura flowing out of its body, every living being has aura nodes, and that's what this blade exploits. Namely, this dagger manipulates the person's aura, it envelops itself and the person with the aura. Because of the rather small 10-layer it forms, not all aura knots open completely at once, instead, they do so gradually over time, so unlike regular Nen users, who rapidly awaken their aura nodes, this method is almost as effective and much calmer and softer. There is no risk in dying, or very little. As with normal humans, a certain amount does flow to the sky when the person owning the blade let its hand go of the blade, and if it gets too much, you can always reach for the Ben's knife. When Rex took hold of Ben's knife, he could clearly see how his aura was being slightly manipulated. But even after awakening your aura, you have to learn controlling your aura yourself. And if a person holds this blade and opened a critical amount of aura nodes without having an Ent teacher or having learned controlling aura, that person will die if he or she would ever lose the blade. This blade is not meant for combat, but rather to create an Ent army. That was the conclusion Rex finally came to. He then directed his Ent at the clock. 11 hours remain. POV. How does it look? When will the boy arrive, and how close is he? Asked a man wearing a big black coat. His thick mustache and long hair were both pitch black. In the center of the room, on a white throne, he cast a beautiful glance. His followers kneeled all around him out of pure respect. Every one of them, including the man on the throne, were dressed in a white military uniform. The asked man took a glance at his gadget, which resembled a tablet. He should have arrived in Japan by now. One day too late, taught the man on the throne. Suddenly, one of them stood up. Are we really sure he has enough potential? But before the man on the throne could respond, his comrades yanked him down and gave him a hard punch. A brown-haired lad whispered to the girl who had just received a hit. Are you doubting, boss? The girl with pink hair firmly clasped his two hands. Excuse this piece of scum, please. The man raised a flat hand. That's okay. Sanbika, don't be upset with him, I did see this happening. The man who had just been punched yelled, ah, and knelt down so swiftly that the ground caved beneath him. Then the long black-haired man stood up. Everyone now leave the room. Of course, everyone listened to him, and afterwards he found himself alone. He moved carefully toward the mirror, looking at his right eye with a big and powerful posture. His right eye began to produce a yellow glow, and suddenly the pupil. It duplicated. He was suddenly overwhelmed with knowledge in a way that a normal person could not handle, but he took it with ease as he was used to instances like that. Interesting. So this is how things will proceed? Raoul Leclerc. You will be the last piece I need for this. Then he turned around. I should shave my mustache. Chapter 14. After getting his foot out of the Zeppelin, Rex bought a few trinkets and some fresh sweet drinks to cool off. While doing this, he initially kept his Ent set to a 20-meter radius to keep an eye out for any potential threats or hostile people, but because he didn't notice anything whatsoever, he decreased his radius to 10 meters since he didn't possess endless stamina. He noticed the different atmosphere Japan had to offer, and a delightful coolness, as soon as the automatic doors opened. Rex walked a few steps further, so as not to get in the way of the people at the entrance, and took out of his pocket the note that Netero had given him. But before he could analyze it, he heard a shouting. Rex! Here! It came suddenly and startled Rex a little. So this is the guy who was supposed to be waiting for me? Rex thought as he remembered his long Zeppelin hours, having read the note over and over again. Rex increased the radius of his Ent to its maximum, which was now 40 meters, just 5 meters short of Kite's record. He embraced the man with his Ent. He was sitting on the side of the road like a beggar with a paper board next to him. However, he had a fairly enigmatic appearance due to his tied back hair, pointed straw hat, enormous coat, and a straw in his mouth. Nike illustration, greater than. Should I observe him longer? After 10 minutes of stalking, Rex came upon a realization. He doesn't look very strong. His Nen didn't have the same intensity that the hunter-examiner sensed. It was ridiculously weak and diluted, which then was a key piece to Rex's realization. So he walked up to him. Rex walked up to the man. Are you Nike? The man gave Rex a quick glance before getting to his feet and wiping the dirt and dust off. Don't you recognize me, Tilda? It's only been 3 months. Do I know him? Who the hell is he? In my life I only know the orphans and Illumi. Damn, is this a joke? And if at all, why these emphases when talking? Rex took a defensive stance for a moment, then loosened it a bit, since Netero had already promised him that the guys weren't villains. Still, he made an effort to remember him. Your voice sounds familiar, but could you give me a little hint? However, The hunter simply began to walk in front of Rex while grabbing a car key from his pocket. "Oh, I'm not the biggest fan of playing guessing games, Rex," he said as he pressed the button on the car key, which flashed the headlights of a car. "I'm the hunter who documented your fight in Heaven's Arena tilde!" Exclamation mark. Rex's face made a small frown. "So you're also wrapped up in this whole thing? Why were you in the Heaven's Arena? Answer." Then Naiki, who was now revealed to be Hunter, briefly turned to face Rex. "Your fight against that snake guy was phenomenal. But I wonder how you even survived." Rex turned his head to the side because of shame. "Aren't you actually long since dead tilde?" Instead of answering Rex's question, he questioned Rex himself. "Damn," Rex said angrily. "I didn't know I'd be interrogated here. Just take me to your boss or answer." Naiki grinned as he flung open the car door and entered the driver's seat. "Just from your appearance and character, I could already tell that you're not really the small-talk person tilde. It was worth a try though. Now please get in the car." "And how do I know this isn't a trap? What if you attack me so suddenly, in the middle of the car ride?" Rex asked him. Naiki thought for a moment. "Oh, I got it. Just steal one of the cars in this park and drive behind me yourself, okay?" Rex leaned against the car door. "How long will this car ride take?" 8-9 hours, Naiki opined. "But if you're strong enough, it's just 2. Rex contemplated what he meant by this. Rex stood leaning against the car, watching the people, and when one of them was about to open her car door, Rex quickly went to her and gave her a big sum of money. After a little talk, and also after showing her his hunter license, she finally gave him the key. As he fastened his seatbelt and after Naiki went ahead, Rex followed him. Rex sleepy, and the heavy eyelids now made it even harder for him to stay awake. "Huh? What's that? That? It shouldn't be like that. I shouldn't be so sleepy right now. I've already slept in the Zeppelin. That can't be natural. He must be behind it." He quickly parked the car on the side of the road, and opened the car door. He was ready for a confrontation with Naiki, but when his legs touched the ground they became all wobbly. "Is that his Hansu?" He examined his body with Gil, but could find nothing. When he saw Naiki's car coming towards him, he wanted to run away, but he fell on the ground. Damn it! He wanted to crawl away, but could not, he was already sleeping. A pain. Rex felt a pain on his cheek. Ouch! He put his hand on his cheek, which hurt, and widened his N, only to catch sight of a hunched-over Naiki to the side of him at the open side door. Rex got out and analyzed the area around him, only to discover a desert with minimal vegetation and limestone soil. The car itself wasn't even parked in a parking lot either. "Where? No. What did you do to me?" "Get your sword," Naiki said in a serious, earnest voice as he pointed to Rex's backpack. Again Rex took an extremely defensive stance, and for the time it took him to pull out the 2 Ben's knives he hid under his pants, he turned an extremely tight rein on himself to be protected in case this Naiki attacked him. "Okay, I'm ready. Can you tell me for a second why you let me draw my 2 knives? Rex asked him. "After all, it's obviously not really a trap to kill me. You would have had dozens of opportunities for that during my sleep." "Don't bullshit me. Murdering someone in their sleep is the lowest thing in the world. If you are powerful enough, I will spare you, but don't be hasty. This was just meant to be a duel. And don't be relaxed. You should be aware that it's hard not to trample an ant." In Naiki's hand, something blazing grew until it took the shape of a sword that was about half a meter, 1.64 feet, long. It could just barely avoid being called a dagger. "Now follow me." The two faced each other, not too far, but not too close either, yet perfect to be in Rex's N. The ground was straight and close to perfect for fighting. Rex was armed with 2 Ben's knives, while Naiki, the samurai, carried his short nen sword on his waist. Rex was just exploding with adrenaline, which is why his nen strengthened to the maximum. He had never felt this sensitivity before in his life, which is why he was forced to make the first move. He slammed into Naiki at full speed. His legs, which he used to jump, were like both of his knives, fused with Nen, which is why he was in front of Naiki in less than a second. Rex took advantage of the X-shaped pattern created by him crossing his two blades to exert as much pressure as he could. But Naiki's sword hit the X that Rex's two daggers formed perfectly in the middle. The air waved vigorously behind Naiki as he moved a few inches, yet the complete force Rex had actually pressured on him vanished in an instant. Was that all? Rex briefly jumped and retreated. When he saw that he was at a disadvantage with pure strength, he wanted to take advantage of the fact that he had one blade more than Naiki. So he dissolved the X, his two daggers formed. But before he could think of a tactic, Naiki stood in front of him and swung at Rex. What makes you assume that your adversary is waiting off on you to finish handling thoughts? A huge cloud of dust had been formed by the swinging of Naiki's sword, and when it cleared, there was no one under it. Naiki swiveled. Your quick reflexes rescued you. So I guess all those years spent honing your skills in Heaven's arena paid off, huh? You would be in pieces on the ground right now if you had hesitated for just a moment. But Rex barely paid attention to Naiki talking. Instead, he was sweating profusely and gave off a nasty frown. This guy, is he trying to kill me? Don't you underestimate me, you scum. Chapter 15. Might be my best chapter so far. / 3 blades, 2 warriors. / Their blades clashing together with the sound of metal on metal ringing through the air. Rex attempted to strike his opponent as soon as possible. A single hit would paralyze Naiki and cause him to fall to the ground. But all hits were simply blocked by him. Suddenly, the swordman lunged forward with a fierce thrust, but Rex was able to twist out of the way at the last moment. The blade of the swordman's sword only barely grazed Rex's side, leaving a shallow cut in its wake. Rex swiftly took a step back before charging back at him at full speed. He was no match for the swordsman's skill with a sword, but he knew that he had one advantage: his small, agile frame. He had always been quick on his feet, and he knew that he could use his speed to his advantage. I'm not being really wounded, and I can't reach him. He plays passively. He hasn't used the initiative to attack me since the beginning. He also has high standards for me. If that's the case, perhaps I can take advantage of it. Rex wiped away the sweat on his forehead. Naiki blocked once more. Is that all you can do? Sprint and jump on me at full power? If so, I'm disappointed. Naiki suddenly stood behind Rex. Rex, who could sense the presence right now, couldn't even turn around before Naiki made his next move. Surely this can't be. Game over. Naiki's short sword cut Rex. A massive, deep, and possibly fatal wound ran from his right shoulder, continued through the entire back and ended at his lower back. The game of cat and mouse has ended. Ah, Rex said, dropping both of his blades as he collapsed to the ground in excruciating pain. He had gritted his teeth in agony and attempted to cover his wound with his hands. Naiki gave him a pitying gaze. I had higher expectations for you, but it seems that even the wisest people make mistakes. His gaze shifted away from Rex and afterwards made his way back toward the car. You son of a bitch, Rex thought as he slowly pushed his left hand after dabbing some nen on it into the dirt with. You'll regret this. Rex started to fully conceal his left arm with his body once he was freed from Naiki's N. Rex gathered his nen onto this arm, which was now entirely buried in the ground. Underneath, he began to gather his nen more and more until a white sphere materialized, emitting a brilliant golden light, just as it had when it first appeared on this world. This sphere expanded and eventually took the form of an oval and shortly after that, a humanoid. That's right, it was his secret weapon, the spare body. After a few attempts to reach the spare body's arms, Rex finally succeeded. His blade then struck the spare body's arms, severing them from the body. Rex then absorbed them into his own body, feeling his strength increase with each passing moment. This sensation is divine. Is this how Meruem felt when he devoured Poof and Yuppie? Rex had never experienced anything like this sudden gain in power, which made his gradual progress in the heavens arena seem blundering and old. He sensed a fresh, miraculous strength in his arm muscles, and he stiffly tested them. Rex tried to stand up, and surprisingly it went without a hitch. The absorbed arms had given him the strength and power that he needed to overcome any obstacle. He was now more powerful than ever before, and he was ready to take on any challenge that came his way. But the whole thing almost made him forget something, the lack of pain. Why don't I feel pain? Puzzled by this, he fumbled his back. That can't be. My wounds are gone? He focused his eye on the hole in the ground and analyzed his spare body to be sure if maybe he didn't take more than his 2 arms. But the spare body was only still missing the 2 arms he had absorbed just earlier. I see, Rex pondered as he tried to find a rational and logical explanation for what had happened. The power absorbed to strengthen my arms must first flow through my body to get to that spot, and before some of that power could reach my arms, it hit the wounds, which is why they healed. Rex trampled over the small mound which the spare body created by its inflation, and also filled the hole until the ground under his feet looked normal. Actually, such a location wouldn't be a bad place for the spare body either, in the middle of the hot desert where no one would ever live. Rex took the 2 blades with him. I know I wanted to get revenge on that guy, but let's not risk it. However, just as he was about to turn and run, he felt a hand on his shoulder. He recognized it right away thanks to his and bowed down before the blade could decapitate him brutally. The sword swing caused the air to get highly disturbed and whirl vigorously. I knew I should have returned here. However, Rex disregarded his words. The next steps appeared for Rex as if in slow motion. First, he turned around. Then he utilized his bent knife to block Naiki's raging fast sword that was swung and aimed at his throat. Without waiting, Rex launched a full-blown stab at Naiki's neck. Naiki, who saw the approaching blade, must have felt himself impelled not to flee. And that's why in an instant he protected his hand with KO. In a quick motion, he grabbed the knife and tore it from Rex's grasp. Rex stumbled backwards, surprised by Naiki's strength and speed. Naiki stood facing him, the blade held firmly in his hand. He looked at Rex with a mix of determination and amusement, as if he was enjoying the challenge of the fight. Rex knew that he had to come up with a new plan if he wanted to win. Rex then leaped back to establish a good distance after all that. Naiki turned to face the dagger that he had just taken from Rex. How did you do that? Your strength, momentum and speed pretty much doubled. Is that your secret weapon? You kind of took me by surprise. You almost caught me, Tilda. Ha, Rex pointed at Naiki's hand. Don't you see that cut on your hand? The poison from my bent knife has already reached the deepest parts of your body now. Only 0.1 milligrams of it can paralyze a whale. Tap. 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 But Naiki calmly walked up to Rex. What's the matter with you? Why the confused look on your face? Confused that this poison can't do anything to me, Tilda? You almost look like you have witnessed a miracle. Naiki threw Rex's bent knife behind him. Can I ask you a question? Rex nodded hesitantly. Why do you think that I, of type conjuration, have conjured a sword rather than using an existing, powerful one? We both know that a conjurer's weapon can never hold a candle to an enhancer's enhanced weapon. Yes, sir. What exactly are you looking for? My sword Shizoku is not intended to be the strongest, it's the fastest. With his speed he can break through anything. An enhancer can be as strong as he wants to be, but he won't get away alive. After being hit by him, Naiki stuck Shizoku in the ground and clapped with his hands. Did you hear that? Yes, exactly that. Only 3 times faster. Faster than any bullet. Faster than the reaction time of a peak human, no, even that of an advanced nin user. It's the fastest sword on Earth. Rex looked at him in confusion. Please forgive me, but what do you mean by the fastest? Doesn't it depend on the swordsman how fast he can swing THW sword? Naiki picked up the sword from the ground. Ah, I guess a demonstration never hurts. He aimed the sword at Rex's right hand. Rex got ready for his next move mentally and physically, but after seconds passed nothing happened. Naiki's sword didn't move from the spot, it remained in place. But then he felt pain. He looked at his hand, which now had a blade-sized hole. Ah! You fool, did you really think you could overserve that sword with your widespread N? Well, at least I got 2 hits, he pointed behind Rex. Rex sweated as he turned his head. He tried to ignore the pain as much as possible. He then noticed the hole in the earth. The exact same ground he buried his spare body under. You fucker. Rex was panicking in the moment as the power of the enhanced arms left his body, since his spare body died off. Naiki looked at him with a serious look. For every man there is a cause which he would gladly die for, to defend the right for the things which belong to him. Fight with his bare hands in desperation. Was this thing really the peace you wanted to protect? Suddenly, Rex saw a golden glow from Naiki's sword, and he felt a pain in his chest. He focused his attention, his N on Naiki's sword's hilt. He slowly followed the blade further and further, lowering his head more and more, until he noticed it in the left side of his chest. Shizuku has the ability to extend and shorten. He did the exact same thing with your right hand, but he was so fast that you didn't notice. It probably looked to you as if it hadn't moved at all. It's just too bad the maximum of Shizuku is only 4 meters. What am I babbling about? It was enough to pierce your heart. But don't look at me so wickedly. Since, as the last gift you'll ever receive, was you being allowed to see the beautiful Shizuku. Rex fell down. I see. I guess this is the end of my journey? Chapter 16. Huh. Where am I? Rex said, placing his right hand on his chest unintentionally. With his nen, he glanced at his new surroundings. It was a hospital, and he was on a hospital bed. This is not the place I hid my spare body at? Soon after that, he took notice of a familiar-looking, though now slightly rounder, figure standing next to him. Finally awake, sounded from his side. You're the girl who gave me the note. He threw the blanket that covered him up to his torso on the floor and stood up to the girl who was enjoying her coffee while lounging on the sofa right next to him. But, his first steps threw him off balance and he collapsed to the ground. Fuck. You? My name is Sanbika, in case you forgot, and please calm down. I know you probably despise me, but don't walk, your muscles are weakened, it's a side effect of a drug we're giving you. Probably despise? You, only because of you I've met this Naiki. Do you know what he did to me? I'm tired of being ordered around by you or your boss. You always make me go somewhere, and now you've even tried to kill me. I'm so sick of following your orders. He attempted to stand up, but found it to be extremely difficult, so he pulled himself up to the hospital bed and laid on it instead. You freaks, what have you done to my body? Muscles? Even my bones? Sanbika placed her freshly brewed coffee just next to her on a small circular table. Well, our boss told us to give you a drug which every bodybuilder envies and wants. It rips the muscle strands forcing them to reconnect and enhance, so just to build muscle, it should strengthen your muscular system of your body. In principle we also did the same with other systems in your body, for example your nervous system. We injected needles into your arms, neck, legs etc. which strengthened your synaptic neurons. But the boss had the opinion that we should ignore the window for taking all those drugs, so instead of waiting a week for your body to be ready for another injection, we injected every day. Well, if you do it for a week, even a normal person can do it. But we did it for a long time. How long? He said questioningly. I'm 16 now and you just turned 15 a month ago. You've been on this bed for roughly 29 months. 29 months? Fuck. Do you know how much time that is? So much wasted time. Have you all gone mad? She pointed to his chest. Don't you wanna know why you don't have that hole there in your heart? Or don't you wanna know why you spent 29 months in that coma state? or why we injected those drugs into you. First, he touched his chest, then his right hand. No holes? He made a valiant attempt to sit up and succeeded doing so. Go on, say what you are going to do to me next. Alright, I'm delighted you've calmed now. Shall we begin the explanation now? Rex nodded. Well, first of all, we didn't set a trap for you, even though it might have looked like one. Rex gave her a perplexed look. But she didn't stop talking. And the missing hole in your heart is the best evidence. You're still alive. And if this was a trap, Naiki would have killed you long ago. He would have had plenty of chances, even in the car. Wait a minute, Rex said. This Naiki guy wouldn't have killed me just like that in the car. He told me himself that honor and pride are everything for him. Uh-oh, Sanbika started giggling. Do you think infanticide is honorable? Killing children is prideful? And here, I'm not just referring to the car. You must have noticed that he usually speaks casually to you before striking, warns you, or, if he is behind you, may even pat you on the shoulder. And what about the sword that was in my chest? Yeah. Right, yes, I'm allowed to tell you about that. You need an allowance to say that? Asked Rex with great suspicion. That was Naiki's Hatsu, the Saizoku. It has two modes, the real sword, and that sort of illusions. The real sword works like a normal sword, but can extend and retract at a rate that is roughly 3 times faster than sound. His sword of illusion sword though, on the other hand, is 6 times faster than sound, yet it is unable to physically cut or destroy anything, it will just go through things. It also shines a golden light when it stretches or retracts, which the normal sword doesn't do. And although it doesn't harm your body or leave wounds, it will cause pain that hurts twice as much, which might be the reason for your coma. Additionally, it makes you believe that what he cuts with the illusion sword is genuine by affecting your senses. Rex suddenly felt a chilling breeze coming from behind him. That's perfect for torture. Sanaba noticed that he was a little intimidated. Don't worry, those who already know about how the illusion sword works can't be affected by it anymore. So rest assured. Rex had the impression that a huge weight had been lifted off from him. And what's the deal with those drugs? To be honest, I don't know. It was up in the air for all of us what the boss wanted, but the boss said you would immediately know what we would meant with this act if I told you these few words. Strength. Multiplier. Clone. Rex was immediately in a trance, trying to feel his spare body, and as he did, he was able to gradually figure out why the boss was doing the things he was doing. He weakened and destroyed my current body to strengthen the spare body? His spare body could not regress in strength and vitality. If Rex drank poison every day with his original body, he would suffer endless pain before finally building up immunity to it. However, the spare body would not suffer from these effects of the poison and would immediately build up immunity to the poison even though it had never been in contact with the poison. At the moment the spare body shone with power brighter than any light on earth. The progress he made with the present life was much greater than when he spent years in the Heavenly Tower, spending every minute to train. Great, but how did he know about my Hatsu? Rex's thoughts were stopped by Sanbika as she pressed her index finger on Rex's chest. So, do you want to join us? Sanbika looked at him annoyed because he ignored her question. It's okay, you don't have to tell me anything. She got up from the sofa. Anyways, I've already wasted enough time in this place. She gave him a pearl-encrusted necklace with a golden ball in the middle. Put this on, it will significantly speed up your recovery and even strengthen your physique, but it won't work once you activated your Hatsu. She then took something from her jeans pocket. And here's a note. A note where you can find us next time. Yes, I know, give it to me already. As she left the room, he allowed his nen to wander all over his body. He looked at the hospital phone lying on the table. I think I really need to go ask Netero again if he might not be wrong about these guys. Although they have strengthened my body, their method had a high chance of killing me. Somehow everything feels so fast. It feels strange.